This video was made thanks to this awesome request. Thank you for the title suggestion, and happy watching.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Quirkless. If you're a fan of My Hero Academia, especially awesome fanfiction stories all about Deku, you're definitely in the right place. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow anime fans, and subscribe so you never miss a new upload. Also, if you have an awesome idea or title for the next fanfiction video, drop it in the comment below. I'd love to read your suggestions. And hey, if you want to support the channel even more and keep me extra motivated to create awesome content, consider joining our channel membership. By becoming a member, you'll unlock cool perks like exclusive loyalty badges and custom stickers you can use in the comments. If you've already joined, thank you so much. Your support truly means the world to me and helps keep this channel going. Alright, let's get right into the story.
The rain had been falling over Musutafu since early morning. Izuku Midoriya sat alone beneath the roof of a small convenience store, his little hands wrapped around a notebook. His green hair was damp, and several pages of his notebook had become wrinkled from the rain. He was 4 years old, and he had already learned that he was different. Not because he wanted to be. Because the doctor had told him, "You don't have a quirk." Those words had stayed with him. His mother had tried to comfort him afterward. She had told him that he could still become a wonderful person, even without a quirk. Izuku believed her, but he still wanted to become a hero. He wanted to save people. He wanted to be strong enough to reach someone who was afraid and tell them that everything would be all right. That was why his notebook was already filled with observations about pro-heroes. All Might's strength, Endeavor's flames, Best Jeanist's fiber control, Eraserhead's fighting style. Izuku had written everything he could find. Then something strange happened. A golden crack appeared in the air. Izuku stopped writing. What? The crack widened. The rain around it suddenly stopped falling. The air shook violently. Crack. A woman was thrown out of the distortion. She crashed onto the pavement several meters away. Izuku immediately stood up. The woman slowly pushed herself off the ground. She had long blonde hair, brown eyes, and a diamond-shaped mark on her forehead. She wore clothing that looked nothing like anything Izuku had ever seen. She looked around with clear irritation. Where the hell am I? Izuku stared at her. The woman noticed him. You. Izuku froze. Me. Yes. You're the only person around here who isn't running away. She walked toward him. Izuku nervously held his notebook against his chest. Are you hurt? The woman stopped. What? You fell really hard. Are you injured? She looked at her own arms and legs. There were several small cuts on her skin, but nothing serious. I've survived worse. Izuku's eyes widened. You're really strong. The woman raised an eyebrow. Strong. Izuku immediately opened his notebook. Your muscles, your balance, the way you landed, and your reaction speed. You're probably a combat specialist. Are you a pro hero? Pro what? Izuku stopped writing. You don't know what a pro hero is. No. That answer made absolutely no sense to him. The woman looked around again. This place isn't my world. Izuku blinked. Your world. I was fighting. Then some kind of spatial distortion appeared. Next thing I knew, I was here. She looked toward the strange golden crack. It had already disappeared. The woman clicked her tongue. Great. Izuku looked at her carefully. Can you go back? Not yet. Then. He hesitated. You can stay at my house. The woman stared at him. You just invited a complete stranger into your home. Izuku became nervous. I mean, my mom is there too. And you look like you need somewhere to stay. I can ask her. The woman stared at him for several seconds. Then she laughed. You're an interesting kid. Izuku smiled nervously. Thank you. What's your name? Izuku Midoriya. Izuku. Huh. She crouched down until they were at eye level. I'm Tsunade. Izuku immediately wrote the name down. Tsunade. His eyes suddenly became bright. Are you a martial artist? Among other things, can you use some kind of superpower? Something like that. Izuku leaned closer. What kind? Tsunade gave him a small smile. Chakra. Izuku's pencil stopped. Chakra. It's energy produced by combining physical and mental energy. With proper control, it can be used for all kinds of techniques. Izuku's eyes sparkled. That's amazing. Tsunade almost laughed again. Most children would have been frightened after hearing something like that. This child was fascinated. You want to learn? Izuku's expression changed. He looked down at his notebook. Then at his small hands. Can I? Tsunade became quiet. Why? Because. Izuku clenched his hands. I want to become a hero. Even without a quirk. Izuku nodded. Yes. You know how difficult that will be. Yes. You might get hurt. I know. You might fail. Izuku swallowed. I know. Tsunade studied him. There was fear in the boy's eyes. But he did not run. She had seen that expression before. People who wanted to become stronger because someone else needed their strength. Stand up. Izuku blinked. What? Stand up straight. Izuku immediately obeyed. Tsunade placed 2 fingers against his forehead. Close your eyes. Izuku closed them. Now breathe. He inhaled. Slowly. He exhaled. Again. Izuku followed her instructions. At first, nothing happened. Then he felt something strange moving inside his body. It was warm, small, but unmistakably present. Izuku opened his eyes. I felt something. Tsunade's expression became serious. Good. What was it? The beginning of chakra control. Izuku looked at his hands. Does that mean? Don't get excited yet. Tsunade stood up. Controlling chakra takes years. Izuku nodded immediately. Then I'll train for years. You don't even know what the training is. I'll still do it. Tsunade stared at him. Then she smiled. All right. She turned toward the street. If you're serious, I'll teach you. Izuku's mouth opened. Really? Yes. Thank you. He bowed so quickly that he nearly fell forward. Tsunade caught him by the collar. And don't call me a hero. Izuku blinked. What should I call you? Tsunade sensei. Izuku's eyes lit up. Yes. Tsunade sensei. Tsunade released him. First lesson starts tomorrow. Izuku nodded. He had no idea what the next 10 years would bring. He only knew that the woman standing before him had opened a path that he had never known existed. And for the first time since the doctor had told him that he was quirkless, Izuku had something new to chase. Not a quirk, not a miracle, but strength that he could build with his own hands. The next morning, his training would begin. And Tsunade had no intention of making it easy. The first morning of Izuku's training began before sunrise. He stood in an empty field outside Musutafu wearing simple training clothes. His hair was still messy from sleep, and his eyes were barely open. Tsunade stood several meters away with her arms crossed. You're late. Izuku looked at the sky. It's 5 in the morning. Exactly. That's not late. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Izuku immediately straightened. Yes, sensei. Good. Now run. How far? Until I tell you to stop. Izuku stared at her. Then he started running. The first hour was miserable. By the second hour, his legs were shaking. By the third, he collapsed. Thud. I can't. Tsunade walked over. You can. My legs are still attached. Izuku looked up at her. That's not very encouraging. Get up. Izuku gritted his teeth and stood. Again. The training continued. Running. Push-ups. Squats. Tree climbing. Balancing exercises. Chakra control. Medical theory. Taijutsu. Then more running. Tsunade never allowed him to rely solely on physical strength. She made him understand every movement. Every muscle, every breath, every fraction of chakra he used. Don't waste chakra. Izuku concentrated while holding one hand against a tree. Like this. Too much. He reduced the flow. Now. Too little. He adjusted it again. The bark beneath his palm cracked slightly. Tsunade nodded. Better. Izuku smiled. I did it. Don't celebrate yet. She pointed toward another tree. Do it while running. Izuku's smile disappeared. What? Years passed. Izuku changed. At 5, he could barely create enough chakra to climb a tree. At 6, he could run several kilometers without stopping. At 7, he could maintain chakra control while fighting. At 8, he began learning medical ninjutsu. His first attempt at healing was almost useless. He placed his hands over a small cut on his arm. Green light appeared, then vanished. Izuku frowned. Nothing happened. Tsunade shook her head. You rushed it. I thought healing was about putting chakra into the wound. It's about understanding what you're healing. She pointed at his arm. You need to know where the damaged tissue is. You need to control the chakra precisely enough to stimulate recovery without damaging healthy cells. Izuku nodded. He opened his notebook. So medical ninjutsu requires anatomical knowledge. Yes. Izuku immediately began writing. Within months, he had filled several notebooks. Muscles, bones, blood vessels, organs, nerve structures, chakra pathways. Tsunade occasionally looked at his notes. You're becoming a doctor. Izuku smiled. And a hero. Those two aren't mutually exclusive. At 10 years old, Izuku's training became significantly harder. Tsunade took him to a rocky training ground outside the city. A large boulder stood in the middle of the field. Break it. Izuku stared at it. With my hands. Yes. That's impossible. Then make it possible. Izuku took a stance. He concentrated chakra into his fist. His muscles tightened. His breathing slowed. Then, boom. His fist struck the rock. A small crack appeared. Izuku stared at it. Tsunade nodded. Again. He struck it again. Boom. Another crack. Again. Boom. The boulder finally split apart. Izuku fell onto one knee. I did it. Tsunade smiled. That's the basic principle of my strength. Izuku looked at his fist. Concentrate chakra into one point. Correct. Then release it at the exact moment of impact. Correct. So the actual strength comes from control rather than just raw power. Now you're understanding. Izuku looked at the destroyed boulder. His eyes were shining. Can I make it stronger? Tsunade laughed. That's the right question. By 12, Izuku had become frighteningly strong. He could leap across rooftops. He could run faster than most adults. He could smash concrete with his bare hands. But Tsunade still wasn't satisfied. Your body is strong. Izuku stood in front of her, covered in sweat. But, your technique is still sloppy. Izuku looked surprised. Sloppy. You use too much movement. Tsunade demonstrated a simple punch. Her fist barely moved. The ground behind her exploded. Boom. Izuku stared at the crater. That's chakra control. She looked at him. You don't need a giant motion to create a giant impact. Izuku nodded. He spent the next year practicing the same movement. One punch. One step. One breath. Again. 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 Until the movement became natural. At 14, Izuku began learning the technique that would eventually become his greatest asset. Regeneration. Tsunade placed a small cut across his arm. Heal it. Izuku activated medical ninjutsu. Green chakra surrounded the wound. The skin slowly closed. Izuku's eyes widened. I did it. Yes. How long did that take? 3 seconds. Izuku smiled. Can I make it faster? You can. And he did. 3 seconds became 2. 2 became 1. Eventually, even deep injuries could be repaired within moments. But Tsunade warned him about one technique in particular. This is not something you use casually. She touched the diamond-shaped seal on her own forehead. This is the Byakugo. Izuku stared at the mark. The 100 healings. Yes. How does it work? You store chakra over a long period of time. Izuku listened carefully. When enough chakra has accumulated, the seal can release it automatically, allowing your body to regenerate while you continue fighting. Izuku looked fascinated. How long does it take? Years. Then I'll start now. Tsunade smiled. I knew you'd say that. Izuku began storing chakra. Every day. Every night. During training. During sleep. During meditation. He learned to compress enormous amounts of chakra into a tiny point on his forehead. The process was slow. Painfully slow. But he never stopped. At 15, he stood before Tsunade. His green hair had grown longer. His body was lean and heavily trained. His hands were covered with old scars that had already been healed. His eyes were calmer than they had been years earlier. Tsunade looked at the mark on his forehead. A small diamond had appeared. You did it. Izuku touched his forehead. The Byakugo. Not complete. How much longer? You'll know when it's ready. Izuku nodded. Then Tsunade stepped backward. Show me your taijutsu. Izuku took his stance. Tsunade disappeared. Izuku's danger instincts reacted instantly. He turned. Her fist stopped centimeters from his face. Izuku countered. Tsunade blocked. Crack. The ground beneath them shattered. Izuku spun and drove his heel downward. Boom. The earth exploded. Tsunade jumped backward. Better. Izuku landed. Again. Again. They clashed across the training ground. Fists. Kicks. Elbows. Chakra-enhanced strikes. Every impact sent cracks through the earth. Crack. Boom. Thud. Izuku kept moving. He no longer fought like the frightened boy who had once watched heroes from a distance. His movements were precise, controlled, efficient, and every year of training had been built into his body. 10 years after their first meeting, Izuku stood at the same training ground. He was 15. Tsunade stood across from him. Neither spoke for several seconds. Then Tsunade smiled. One final test. Izuku raised an eyebrow. What kind? Hit me. Izuku blinked. Seriously. With everything you've learned. Izuku took a deep breath. Chakra gathered throughout his body. His feet dug into the ground. The diamond-shaped seal on his forehead spread. Black lines extended across his face. Tsunade's smile widened. Good. Izuku lowered his stance. Ready. Come on. Izuku vanished forward. Boom. His fist collided with Tsunade's palm. The shockwave blasted across the entire field. Trees bent. Rocks flew into the air. The ground cracked outward in a massive circle. Izuku pushed harder. Tsunade blocked the strike with one hand. Then she suddenly stepped aside. Izuku's fist struck the ground. Boom. A massive crater appeared. Dust covered the field. Izuku slowly stood. Tsunade looked at him. You've learned everything I can teach you. Izuku stared. Really? Yes. She smiled. You're no longer my student. Izuku's eyes widened. Then what am I? Tsunade crossed her arms. My successor. Izuku looked at the seal on his forehead. The Byakugo had finally awakened. Green chakra surrounded his body. For the first time, Tsunade looked at her student with genuine pride. Now you're ready to become a hero. Izuku clenched his fist. I will. Tsunade nodded. Then let's see what kind of hero you become. The morning was unusually quiet. Izuku stood in the middle of the training field, staring at the crater he had created the previous day. The ground was still damaged from his final test. He crouched beside it and touched the cracked earth. I really did that. Yes. Izuku turned. Tsunade was standing behind him. She carried a small travel bag over her shoulder. Izuku immediately noticed something different about her expression. Tsunade-sensei. We need to talk. Izuku stood. Did I do something wrong? No. Tsunade looked toward the sky. I found a way home. Izuku froze. Home. My world. The words came slowly. I've spent 10 years trying to find another dimensional distortion. Last night, I finally detected one. Izuku stared at her. You're going back. Yes. He lowered his head. For 10 years, Tsunade had been there. She had trained him, treated his injuries, yelled at him, encouraged him, and occasionally thrown him into rivers when he complained about training. Now she was leaving. When? Today. Izuku's hands tightened. Today. The distortion won't remain stable for long. Izuku looked away. I understand. Tsunade watched him carefully. You don't have to pretend you're fine. Izuku shook his head. I'm not pretending. He smiled weakly. I'm happy for you. Tsunade walked toward him. Izuku. Yes. Look at me. He raised his head. You're ready. Izuku's eyes became slightly red. You really think so? I know so. She placed a hand on his shoulder. 10 years ago, you were a quirkless child who couldn't protect himself. Izuku smiled. And now you're strong enough to destroy a building if you get careless. Izuku laughed. That's a weird compliment. It's still a compliment. They spent the rest of the morning together. There was no training. Instead, they walked through the city. Izuku showed Tsunade the places she had never bothered visiting. The park where he used to exercise. The convenience store where he bought food after training. The small clinic where he had studied human anatomy. The school he had attended before becoming a full-time trainee. Tsunade listened as Izuku explained everything. Occasionally, she teased him. You still write notes about heroes? Of course. After 10 years, their fighting styles are interesting. You've become a professional analyst. Izuku smiled. Maybe. They eventually reached a quiet hill overlooking Musutafu. Izuku sat on the grass. Tsunade stood beside him. What are you going to do now? Izuku looked toward the city. Enter U.A. The Hero Academy. Yes. And after that, become a pro hero. Tsunade nodded. Good. Izuku hesitated. What about you? I'll return to my village. Your village. The Hidden Leaf. Izuku smiled. I want to see it someday. Tsunade laughed. You'd stand out immediately. Because I'm quirkless. Because you have green hair. Izuku touched his hair. That's true. They laughed together. That afternoon, they returned to the training ground. The dimensional distortion was already beginning to form. A golden light appeared in the air. The atmosphere became heavy. Izuku stared at it. That's the portal. Yes. Tsunade placed her travel bag on the ground. Then she turned toward him. There's one more thing. She reached inside her clothes and pulled out a necklace. Izuku recognized it immediately. That's my necklace. She held it out. You've seen it before. Yes. Take it. Izuku stared at the necklace. I can't. Why? It's important to you. Exactly. She placed it into his hand. That's why I want you to have it. Izuku looked at the green stone. Tsunade-sensei. This isn't just a keepsake. She closed his fingers around it. Remember what it represents. Izuku nodded. Strength. No. Tsunade shook her head. Responsibility. Izuku listened carefully. Having strength means people will depend on you. Don't use it carelessly. I won't. Don't become obsessed with winning. I won't. And don't throw your life away trying to save someone. Izuku paused. I'll try. Tsunade frowned. That's not good enough. Izuku smiled. Then I'll promise. Better. The portal became brighter. Crack. The air around it distorted. Tsunade stepped toward the opening. Izuku suddenly grabbed her sleeve. Wait. She looked back. What? Izuku hesitated. Thank you. Tsunade smiled. For what? Everything. He lowered his head. If you hadn't found me, you would have found another way. Maybe. Izuku looked up. But I wouldn't have become who I am now. Tsunade was silent. Then she placed her fist against his forehead. You were always stubborn. Izuku laughed. You taught me that. No. She smiled. You were already like that. The portal began to collapse. Tsunade stepped backward. Izuku. Yes. Become a hero. Izuku nodded. I will. Protect people. I will. Heal them when you can. I will. And don't forget your training. Izuku smiled. Never. Tsunade turned toward the portal. Then she stopped. One more thing. What? If you ever meet a blonde woman with a temper worse than mine. Izuku blinked. Yes. Run. Izuku stared. Why? Tsunade grinned. Because there's probably another Tsunade somewhere in the universe. Izuku laughed. That's terrifying. Good. Tsunade stepped into the portal. Golden light surrounded her body. Izuku stood still. Goodbye, Tsunade-sensei. She looked back one last time. Goodbye, Izuku. The portal collapsed. Crack. Silence returned to the training ground. Izuku remained there for several minutes. Then he looked down at the necklace in his hand. He carefully placed it around his neck. The green stone rested against his chest. He touched the diamond-shaped seal on his forehead. The Byakugo remained quiet, but the chakra within his body was immense. 10 years of training. 10 years of discipline. 10 years under the strongest teacher he had ever known. Izuku clenched his fist. I'll make you proud. Several days later, Izuku stood in front of a large mirror. His hero costume was hanging beside him. He had designed it himself. It retained the familiar green color associated with his childhood dream, but it was completely different from the costume he might have worn without Tsunade's training. The suit was reinforced around his joints. His boots were designed for high-impact movement. His gloves protected his hands while allowing precise chakra control, and his mask could be lowered when he needed to perform medical treatment. Izuku put the costume on. He looked at himself. Then he touched the necklace around his neck. Ready. His mother stood in the doorway. She smiled. You look like a real hero. Izuku turned toward her. I'm going to you. I know. She walked over and adjusted his collar. Be careful. I will. And don't get into too much trouble. Izuku smiled. I'll try. His mother hugged him. Izuku hugged her back. The next morning, he left for the U.A. entrance examination. He walked through Musutafu with calm steps. People passed him without knowing what he could do. They didn't know about Chakra. They didn't know about the Byakugo. They didn't know that the seemingly ordinary teenager had spent the last decade being trained by a legendary warrior from another world. Izuku stopped at a crosswalk. The light turned green. He continued walking. His hand touched the necklace once more. Somewhere beyond the limits of his world, Tsunade was now walking toward her own home. And in Musutafu, her student was finally taking his first step toward becoming a hero. The U.A. entrance examination had finally arrived. Izuku stood outside the enormous gates with hundreds of other applicants. He adjusted his gloves and looked toward the academy. U.A. the place he had dreamed about for years. He had studied its entrance examination extensively, but knowing the rules on paper was different from actually standing there. Izuku took a slow breath. Stay calm. His fingers touched the necklace around his neck. Tsunade's gift. He smiled. I'll do my best, sensei. A girl suddenly walked past him. She had brown hair tied into a short bob and bright brown eyes. Izuku recognized her immediately. Ochako Uraraka, one of the applicants. She suddenly turned around. Hey. Izuku looked at her. Yes. You look really nervous. Izuku blinked. Do I? A little. She smiled. Don't worry. Everyone looks nervous. Izuku smiled back. You're right. Ochako looked at his costume. That's a pretty cool costume. Thanks. I designed it myself. Are you a support-type hero? Not exactly. Before Izuku could explain, a loud voice interrupted them. Listen up. Tenya Iida raised his arm dramatically. The examination has not yet begun. There is no reason to converse with other applicants. Ochako blinked. Izuku looked at Iida. He's very serious. Yeah. Ochako covered her mouth to hide a laugh. Izuku smiled. Then the speakers came alive. The examination is about to begin. The giant doors opened. 3. The applicants prepared themselves. 2. Izuku lowered his stance. 1. Start. The crowd rushed forward. Izuku moved. He didn't run. He disappeared. His chakra-enhanced legs launched him across the street. He landed on the roof of a nearby building. Several robots below immediately detected him. One rushed forward. Izuku jumped. His fist descended. Boom. The robot's head was crushed into the pavement. He landed without losing balance. 1 point. Another robot attacked from behind. Izuku turned. His hand caught its metal arm. He twisted. Crack. The entire machine spun through the air and crashed into another robot. Boom. 2 more. Izuku continued forward. He wasn't interested in destroying everything around him. Instead, he watched. The robots had different sizes, different movement patterns, different point values. He quickly memorized their weaknesses. 3-pointer has poor balance. He jumped over a sweeping attack. 4-pointer has a slow turning radius. His palm struck the machine's knee. Boom. The leg shattered. The robot collapsed. Izuku moved onward. Several blocks away, Ochako was struggling against 2 robots. She touched the first one and activated her quirk. The machine became weightless. She pushed it away. The second robot rushed toward her. Before it could reach her, a green blur passed between them. Izuku landed in front of her. The robot's fist stopped inches from his face. Izuku caught it. You're okay. Ochako stared. Why yeah. Izuku twisted the robot's arm. Crack. The metal limb broke. Then he drove his elbow into its chest. Boom. The robot flew backward. Ochako stared at him. That was amazing. Are you injured? No. Good. Izuku turned toward another robot. Ochako suddenly grabbed his sleeve. Wait. He looked back. What? Thank you. Izuku smiled. You're welcome. Then he disappeared again. Ochako watched him leave. Her cheeks became slightly pink. Who is that guy? Izuku continued collecting points. He moved from machine to machine. He never wasted movement. His training with Tsunade had taught him that. Every strike had a purpose. Every step conserved energy. Every attack was aimed at a weak point. Soon, several applicants began noticing him. Who is that? He's destroying robots with his bare hands. What kind of quirk is that? Izuku ignored them. He jumped onto a building. Then he stopped. Something was wrong. Danger sense activated. A sharp sensation ran through his head. Izuku turned. Far in the distance, an enormous machine emerged between the buildings. The 0-pointer. The ground shook beneath its weight. Boom. Students began screaming. Run. That's the 0-pointer. There aren't any points for that. Izuku looked around. Several applicants were fleeing. Then he heard a scream. Help. Izuku's eyes widened. He turned toward the sound. Ochako was trapped beneath a large piece of concrete. Her legs were pinned. The 0-pointer was approaching. Boom. Another building shook. Izuku's expression changed. Ochako. She looked up. Midoriya. Izuku immediately ran toward her. Leave me. No. You'll lose the exam. Izuku stopped beside her. I don't care. Ochako stared at him. But, you're hurt. He crouched. His hands glowed green. Medical ninjutsu. Warm chakra flowed through Ochako's legs. Her pain disappeared almost immediately. She stared at him. What did you do? Healed you. Izuku grabbed the concrete. Hold on. He lifted it with one hand. The slab rose. Ochako's eyes widened. "You're really strong." Izuku moved the rubble aside. Then he stood. Behind him, the zero-pointer raised one enormous foot. "Danger sense!" screamed. Izuku turned. The machine came down. Boom. The street cracked. Dust filled the air. Ochako covered her face. Then the dust cleared. Izuku stood between her and the machine. His feet had dug into the pavement. His arms were crossed. The zero-pointer's foot had stopped against his chakra-enhanced guard. Izuku slowly lowered his arms. "Stay behind me." Ochako nodded. The robot raised its arm. Izuku looked up. He took one step forward. Chakra surged through his body. The diamond seal on his forehead began to glow. Black lines extended across his forehead. Full power. He pulled his right fist backward. The chakra became concentrated around his knuckles. Okasho. Izuku punched. Boom. The impact exploded across the street. The zero-pointer's entire upper body folded backward. Metal screamed. Crack. The massive machine was launched into the air. Izuku followed. He jumped after it. One punch. Boom. The first impact shattered its armor. Another. Boom. The torso broke apart. Izuku spun through the air. Then he delivered one final kick. Crack. The zero-pointer crashed into the ground. The machine broke into several pieces. Silence followed. Izuku landed. His costume remained intact. Not even a scratch. Ochako stared at him. "You." Izuku looked back. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." "Good." Izuku smiled. Then a loud mechanical voice announced the end of the examination. "The practical examination is over." Izuku looked around. Students were staring at him. Some looked amazed. Others looked intimidated. Izuku simply walked toward Ochako. "Let's get you somewhere safe." Ochako nodded. "Okay." Far above the examination grounds, the U.A. staff watched the footage. Aizawa stared at the screen. "Who is that kid?" Present Mike leaned forward. "The green-haired one." "Yes. His physical performance is insane." Aizawa narrowed his eyes. "It's not just physical strength." The footage showed Izuku healing Ochako. He also possesses some kind of medical ability. Nezu watched silently. "Interesting." Another staff member brought up Izuku's records. Izuku Midoriya. Quirkless. Aizawa looked at the screen. Quirkless. Present Mike laughed. "That kid." Aizawa didn't answer. On the monitor, Izuku was helping another injured applicant stand. Then he carried the student toward the medical staff. Nezu smiled. "Perhaps the label is not as important as we thought." Outside the examination area, Ochako walked beside Izuku. She kept glancing at him. Izuku noticed. "What is it?" "Nothing." "Are you sure?" "Yeah." She smiled. "You're just really strange." Izuku blinked. "Strange. In a good way." Izuku laughed nervously. "Oh." Ochako looked at his forehead. The black markings from the Byakugo had disappeared. "What was that thing?" "Just a technique. You have a lot of those." "I've been training for a long time." "With your parents?" Izuku paused. "With my teacher." "What kind of teacher?" Izuku smiled. "The strongest person I've ever met." Ochako's cheeks became pink again. "She must be amazing." "She is." Izuku looked toward the U.A. building. "And she told me to become a hero." Ochako smiled. "Then I think you'll become a great one." Izuku looked at her. "Thank you." Ochako looked away. "You're welcome." Neither noticed several girls nearby watching them. Momo Yaoyorozu had seen the battle from the examination monitors. Kyoka Jiro had watched the moment Izuku healed another applicant. Mina Ishido had been impressed by the zero-pointer's destruction. Tsuyu Asui had quietly observed his rescue technique. Each had a slightly different expression. But they had all noticed the same thing. Izuku Midoriya was not an ordinary quirkless applicant. And his story at U.A. had only just begun. The first morning at U.A. arrived quickly. Izuku stood outside the classroom door and checked the room number 1 more time. Class 1A. He took a breath. All right. He opened the door. The classroom immediately became noisy. Students were talking among themselves. Some were comparing quirks. Others were discussing the entrance examination. Izuku stepped inside. Several people recognized him. That's the guy from the entrance exam. The one who destroyed the zero-pointer. He was Quirkless, right? Izuku heard the whispers but tried to ignore them. He walked toward an empty desk. Before he could sit down, a familiar voice called out, "Midoriya." Izuku turned. Ochako waved at him. "Good morning." Izuku smiled. "Good morning, Uraraka." She pointed toward the seat beside her. "You can sit here if you want." Izuku nodded. "Thanks." He sat down. A few seconds later, a girl with pink skin and horns leaned over the back of her chair. "So you're Midoriya." Izuku looked at her. "Yes. You were awesome during the entrance exam." She grinned. "That punch was crazy." Izuku became slightly embarrassed. "Thank you. What's your quirk?" Izuku paused. "I don't have one." Mina blinked. "Seriously?" "Yes." "Then how did you do that?" Izuku smiled awkwardly. "Training." Mina stared at him. "Just training. Pretty much." "That's insane." A girl with earphone jacks glanced over from her desk. "He's probably hiding something." Izuku looked at her. "I'm not." Hyokujiro raised an eyebrow. "Then explain how you destroyed a giant robot with one punch." "Chakra." "What?" "It's a type of energy." Hyoka stared. "That doesn't explain anything." Izuku opened his mouth, then stopped. "It's complicated." Mina laughed. "I like him." The classroom door opened. A man wrapped in a yellow sleeping bag dragged himself inside. Everyone became silent. It took you 8 seconds to become quiet. Shota Aizawa looked at the class. "You're all wasting time." He pulled himself out of the sleeping bag. "I'm your homeroom teacher." Izuku immediately recognized him. Eraser head. Aizawa looked across the room. His eyes stopped on Izuku. "Midoriya." Izuku sat straight. "Yes, sir." "Come outside." The class became quiet again. Ochako looked concerned. Izuku stood. "Yes, sir." The class followed Aizawa to the training field. Aizawa held a small device in one hand. "Today's physical assessment will determine how suitable you are for hero work." He looked toward Izuku. "And I'm particularly interested in you." Izuku nodded. "Understood." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Your entrance examination records say you're quirkless." "That's correct. Yet you destroyed a zero-pointer with your bare hands." "Yes." "And you healed another student." "Yes." Aizawa raised his capture weapon. "Show me." Izuku blinked. Now. Aizawa suddenly moved. His capture weapon shot forward. Izuku stepped aside. The cloth wrapped around his arm. Aizawa pulled. Izuku didn't move. Aizawa's eyes glowed red. Quirk erasure. Izuku waited. Nothing happened. Aizawa's expression changed. Interesting. Izuku calmly pulled the capture weapon away. "Was that supposed to stop me?" Aizawa stared at him. "Yes. It didn't. I noticed." Aizawa released the weapon. "Your power isn't a quirk." "No. Then what is it?" "Chakra." Aizawa looked irritated. "You've already said that." Izuku smiled. "It's still the answer." The first test was the 50-meter dash. Izuku stepped onto the starting line. "Ready." The signal sounded. Crack. Izuku launched forward. He crossed the finish line almost instantly. The students stared at the timer. Aizawa checked the result. 3.08 seconds. Kaminari whistled. "That's ridiculous." Izuku rubbed the back of his head. "I could have gone faster." Aizawa looked at him. "Don't." "Yes, sir." The grip strength test came next. Izuku squeezed the device. The numbers climbed rapidly. 100 kilograms. The machine beeped. The display stopped. "That's the maximum." Izuku looked confused. Aizawa sighed. Apparently. Then came the standing long jump. Izuku crouched. Chakra gathered around his legs. He jumped. He crossed the entire sandpit and landed near the opposite wall. The students stared. Did he just jump that far? Yes. Without a quirk. Apparently. The tests continued. Every result placed Izuku near the top. But Aizawa noticed something else. Izuku never showed off. He carefully controlled his strength. When another student struggled, he offered advice. When someone injured their ankle, he immediately approached. Let me see. The student hesitated. It's just a sprain. Still, Izuku crouched. Green chakra appeared around his hands. Medical ninjutsu. The swelling disappeared. The student stared. What the hell? Izuku stood. Try moving it. The student moved his ankle. The pain was gone. It's fine. Izuku smiled. Good. Momo Yaoyorozu watched from nearby. That's extraordinary. Izuku looked toward her. What is your medical ability? Momo approached. You repaired damaged tissue without equipment. Yes. How? Precise chakra control. Momo's eyes became interested. Would you be willing to explain the process? Izuku smiled. Sure. Momo blinked. Really? Of course. Most people wouldn't explain something like that. Why not? Momo smiled. You're unusual, Midoriya. Izuku laughed nervously. I hear that a lot. A loud explosion interrupted them. Boom. Byakugo stood at the other end of the field. Damn nerd. Izuku turned. Byakugo walked toward him. You've been acting like you're better than everyone. Izuku frowned. I haven't. Then fight me. Aizawa immediately raised his capture weapon. Byakugo. What? This is an assessment. Byakugo clicked his tongue. Fine. He turned toward Izuku. But I'm still gonna beat you. Izuku remained calm. If that's what you want. The assessment ended. But Byakugo didn't let it go. Later that afternoon, he cornered Izuku near the training building. You've been hiding something all these years. Izuku looked at him. I've been training. That's not a quirk. No. Then show me. Byakugo's palms sparked. Boom. Izuku stepped aside. The explosion shattered the wall behind him. Dust filled the hallway. Byakugo charged. Die. Izuku moved. He caught Byakugo's wrist. Then his elbow. Then his shoulder. In less than a second, Byakugo was pinned against the floor. What? Izuku held him down without hurting him. Your right shoulder drops before you attack. Byakugo stared. What? It's a habit. Izuku released him. Byakugo immediately jumped back. Don't analyze me. He fired another explosion. Boom. Izuku walked through the smoke. Not a single burn marked his costume. Byakugo's eyes widened. Izuku suddenly appeared in front of him. 2 fingers touched Byakugo's forehead. Enough. Byakugo froze. Izuku could have knocked him out. Instead, he stepped away. We're classmates. Byakugo gritted his teeth. You think you're better than me? No. Izuku looked directly at him. I think we're both training to become heroes. Byakugo remained silent. Izuku walked away. That evening, Aizawa reviewed the assessment results. Izuku's numbers were extraordinary, but his combat evaluation was even more unusual. Aizawa had watched the fight with Byakugo. No wasted movement. He looked at the footage again. He could have seriously injured Byakugo. Instead, Izuku had stopped. Aizawa leaned back. He's controlling his strength. The door opened. All Might entered the room. Young Midoriya. Aizawa looked at him. You know him. All Might's expression became serious. Not personally. But, I've seen him before. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Where? The entrance examination. All Might smiled. That boy has something special. Aizawa looked at the screen. Izuku was helping another student during the assessment. Yes. Aizawa folded his arms. He's dangerous. All Might frowned. Dangerous. Because he has enough power to destroy most of this training ground. Aizawa paused. But he chooses not to. All Might smiled. Then perhaps he's exactly where he needs to be. The next morning, Izuku arrived early. He sat at his desk and opened his notebook. On the first page, he wrote, U.A. Hero Course. Then he added several names. Ochako Uraraka, Tsuyu Asui, Kyoka Jiro, Mina Ashido, Momo Yaoyorozu, Tenya Iida, Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo. He began writing observations. Then someone leaned over his shoulder. Are you taking notes about us? Izuku nearly dropped his pencil. Tsuyu was standing beside him. Yes. Why? Combat analysis. Tsuyu tilted her head. You're interesting, Midoriya. Izuku smiled. Thanks. She smiled back. You're welcome. From another desk, Mina watched the exchange. Momo was reading a book nearby. Kyoka glanced over. Ochako looked at Izuku and smiled. Izuku didn't notice any of it. He was too busy writing. For him, U.A. was only the beginning. He had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. Now he finally had a chance to become the hero he had always wanted to be. And unlike before, he no longer needed to wonder whether he was strong enough. He already knew the answer. The first week of classes passed quickly. Izuku had already become one of the most talked about students in Class 1A. Not because he was loud. Not because he tried to attract attention. It was because nobody understood how a quirkless teenager could move faster than most students, break reinforced concrete with his fists, and heal injuries with glowing green chakra. Even Aizawa still had questions. But Izuku wasn't the only one attracting attention. Class 1B had heard about him too. Especially after the physical assessment results were posted. So that's Midoriya. Itsuka Kendo stood with her arms crossed as she watched him from across the training field. Beside her, Setsuna Tokage grinned. The quirkless monster. Yui Kodai looked at Izuku quietly. Strong. Honi Tsunotori nodded. Very strong. Kanoko Komori giggled. And apparently he can heal people. Abara Shiozaki folded her hands. Such a gift should be used to aid others. Reiko Yanagi floated a training bag beside herself. I want to see how he fights. Izuku heard them talking. He turned toward them. Are you Class 1B? Kendo nodded. Yes. Izuku smiled. It's nice to meet you. Kendo blinked. You're surprisingly normal. Izuku tilted his head. Was I supposed to be different? Setsuna laughed. After hearing those stories. Definitely. The joint training session began shortly afterward. The purpose was simple. Class 1A and Class 1B would perform a series of combat exercises. Aizawa stood in front of both classes. Today isn't about proving who's stronger. Monoma immediately raised his hand. Then what is it about? Aizawa looked at him. Teamwork. Monoma lowered his hand. Boring. Kendo immediately punched him. Ow. Izuku covered a laugh. They're interesting. Momo looked at him. You think so? Yes. Why? They remind me of people I used to train with. Momo smiled. Your teacher? Yes. The first exercise involved rescuing injured civilians from a simulated disaster zone. Izuku entered the area with several students from Class 1B. Kendo was beside him. Setsuna moved ahead using her ability to split her body into smaller pieces. Yui carried several supplies. Reiko floated debris out of the way. Pony flew above them. There are 3 simulated casualties ahead. Pony called. Izuku immediately changed direction. I'll handle the injured. Kendo looked at him. We need to move quickly. I know. They reached the first injured dummy. A large metal beam had fallen across it. Kendo prepared to lift it. Izuku stopped her. Wait. He placed his palm against the beam. Chakra flowed into his arm. This is too heavy for one person. Kendo frowned. I can lift it. I know. Izuku smiled. But we don't need to waste your stamina. He lifted the beam himself. Kendo stared. The beam was large enough to require several people. Izuku moved it aside as if it weighed almost nothing. There. Kendo blinked. Right. They continued. The second casualty was trapped beneath several pieces of concrete. Izuku crouched. Green chakra surrounded his hands. He carefully removed the debris. This one has a simulated leg injury. Kendo watched as Izuku examined the dummy. You can actually tell what's wrong. Yes. From looking. From understanding the body's structure. Kendo looked impressed. You really are a medical specialist. Izuku nodded. My teacher taught me. He activated medical ninjutsu. The dummy's simulated injury marker turned green. Healed. Setsuna's eyes widened. That's convenient. Izuku laughed. It takes a lot of training. The exercise continued. The students moved through collapsing buildings and artificial hazards. Izuku repeatedly took the most dangerous positions. When a wall collapsed, he caught it. Boom. When debris fell toward Pony, black strands suddenly shot from Izuku's fingers. They wrapped around her waist and pulled her away. Whoa. Pony landed safely. Thank you. Izuku released her. Are you okay? Yes. She smiled brightly. You're very kind. Izuku became slightly embarrassed. Anyone would do the same. Kendo looked at him. Not everyone. Izuku didn't answer. The final obstacle was a large training robot. It charged toward the students. Everyone move. Kendo enlarged her fists. Big fist. She punched the machine. Boom. The robot staggered. But it didn't fall. Setsuna attacked from behind. Yui enlarged a piece of rubble and dropped it onto the machine. Reiko restrained its limbs. Pony fired her horns. Still, it kept moving. Izuku stepped forward. Let me finish it. Kendo looked at him. Midoriya. Don't destroy the entire arena. Izuku smiled. I won't. He crouched. Chakra concentrated into his right fist. The ground beneath his feet cracked. Crack. Izuku moved. Boom. His fist struck the robot's center. The machine folded inward. Its legs left the ground. Then it crashed several meters away. Boom. Silence followed. Setsuna stared. You said you wouldn't destroy the arena. Izuku looked around. Only a small crater had appeared. I didn't. Kendo looked at the destroyed robot. That was small. Izuku nodded. Yes. Kendo sighed. Remind me never to make you angry. After the exercise, several students had minor injuries. Kendo had bruised her shoulder. Pony had a cut on her arm. Setsuna had strained one of her joints. Abara had several scratches. Izuku immediately approached them. Let me treat those. Kendo shook her head. It's nothing. It will still hurt later. I can handle it. Izuku smiled. I know. He held out his hand. But you don't have to. Kendo hesitated. Then she sat down. Fine. Green chakra appeared around Izuku's palm. He placed it against her shoulder. Warmth spread through the injured area. The pain disappeared. Kendo moved her arm. It's completely gone. Good. Setsuna immediately appeared beside him. My turn. Izuku blinked. All right. He treated her injury. Then Pony. Then Yui. Then Reiko. Then Kanoko. Then Abara. Each time, his medical chakra moved with precise control. The girls watched carefully. That's amazing. So warm. It doesn't hurt at all. He really is a doctor. Izuku laughed nervously. I'm not a doctor. Kendo looked at him. Not officially. Right. Yet. Class 1A had been watching from nearby. Mina whispered to Ochako. He's doing it again. Doing what? Being ridiculously nice. Ochako's cheeks turned pink. He's just helping them. Kyoka crossed her arms. That's exactly the problem. Momo looked at her. Problem. Kyoka paused. Nothing. Suyu blinked. You're acting strange, Jiro. I'm not. Mina grinned. You definitely are. Later that afternoon, Izuku was walking through the hallway when someone approached him. It was Kendo. Midoriya. Izuku stopped. Yes. Can I ask you something? Of course. She hesitated. Why did you choose medical training? Izuku thought about it. Because people get hurt. Kendo waited. And, if I can stop someone from suffering, why wouldn't I? Kendo stared at him. Izuku smiled. My teacher taught me that strength isn't only about defeating an opponent. Kendo's expression softened. Your teacher sounds like an incredible person. She is. Do you miss her? Izuku looked at the necklace around his neck. Every day. Kendo noticed the pendant. Was it hers? Yes. She gave it to you. Before she went home. Kendo smiled. Then you must treasure it. Izuku nodded. I do. That evening, the two classes returned to their dormitories. Izuku sat at his desk and opened his notebook. He wrote down everything he had learned from the joint exercise. Then he added several pages about Class 1B. Itsuka Kendo. Exceptional physical strength. Strong leadership. Protective instincts. Setsuna Tokage. Excellent mobility. Unpredictable attack patterns. Yui Kodai. Size manipulation. Reiko Yanagi. Telekinetic movement. Pony Tsunotori. Excellent aerial mobility. Kanoko Komori. Fungal-based combat ability. Abara Shiozaki. Long-range restraint. Izuku closed the notebook. Everyone has strengths. He smiled. I need to understand them better. A knock came from the door. Midoriya. Izuku looked up. It was Ochako. Can I come in? Sure. She entered. What were you writing? Notes about today's training. Ochako smiled. You really love taking notes. It's useful. About everyone. Yes. She looked at his notebook. You wrote about me too. Izuku nodded. Of course. Ochako's cheeks turned pink. What did you write? Izuku opened the page. Your quirk is extremely useful for rescue operations. Your reaction speed improved during the entrance exam. You also have good situational awareness. Ochako stared. That's. She looked away. Pretty detailed. I try. Ochako smiled. Thanks. She walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned around. Midoriya. Yes. You know you don't have to heal everyone all the time, right? Izuku nodded. I know. Good. She smiled. But I'm glad you're here. The door closed. Izuku sat quietly for a moment. Then he smiled. Outside, the lights of U.A. illuminated the night. His training with Tsunade had prepared him for combat. But every day at U.A. was teaching him something different. How to work with others. How to trust teammates. How to protect people without standing alone. And tomorrow, another challenge was waiting. The students didn't know it yet. But something far more dangerous than a training exercise was already moving toward U.A. And Izuku's medical skills would soon be tested on a battlefield where there would be no simulated injuries. Only real ones. The morning at U.A. started normally. Izuku arrived at school early, as usual. He placed his notebook on his desk and began reviewing his notes from the previous training session. His observations covered both Class 1A and Class 1B. Before he could finish, Aizawa entered the classroom. Today, we're going somewhere else. The students looked up. We're going to the U.S.J. Mina immediately became excited. The unmanned training facility. Aizawa nodded. Yes. Rescue training. Izuku closed his notebook. Rescue training. That sounded interesting. Combat was one thing. Rescue was different. Tsunade had always insisted that a fighter who couldn't protect injured people was incomplete. The class boarded the bus. Izuku sat near the middle. Ochako sat nearby, while Tsuyu looked out the window. Midoriya. Izuku turned. Yes. Tsuyu pointed toward his hands. You've been exercising again. Izuku looked at his fingers. How can you tell? Your hands are slightly red. Izuku smiled. Just training. You train a lot. Every day. Mina leaned over the seat. Does he ever stop? Ochako shook her head. Probably not. Izuku laughed. I do sleep. Kyoka looked at him. That's not what Mina asked. Izuku didn't have an answer. The bus continued toward the U.S.J. The massive facility came into view. It was enormous. Several artificial environments had been constructed inside the building. Flooded areas, collapsed buildings, fire zones, mountain terrain, industrial areas. Each section was designed to recreate disaster scenarios. Izuku's eyes immediately began scanning the facility. This place is huge. 13 approached the students. Welcome to the ultimate space for joint training. She explained the purpose of the facility and the importance of rescue work. Izuku listened carefully. Then he noticed something. The atmosphere changed. Danger sense activated. His eyes narrowed. A faint pressure ran through his head. Something was wrong. Midoriya. Ochako noticed his expression. What's wrong? Izuku looked toward the central plaza. I don't know. His danger sense intensified. But something is coming. A dark mist suddenly appeared. Whom? The students froze. A large group of figures emerged from the portal. Aizawa immediately stepped forward. Everyone stay back. The students stared. Villains. Aizawa's expression hardened. Yes. The portal continued expanding. Dozens of villains appeared. Then hundreds. Izuku clenched his fists. There are too many. 13 moved toward the students. Stay together. Aizawa jumped forward. Don't move. He activated his quirk. The nearest villains rushed toward him. Aizawa attacked, but more villains appeared behind him. Izuku's danger sense screamed. This isn't random. Aizawa looked toward the center. A massive figure stood among the villains. Black and purple skin. A strange mask. Muscles covering almost his entire body. Izuku immediately recognized him as the biggest threat. That one. The creature slowly stepped forward. Nomu. Izuku had never seen anything like it. Its physical presence was overwhelming. But there was no time to analyze. The warp gate expanded. The students were suddenly surrounded by mist. Everyone. Aizawa reached for Izuku. Too late. The world twisted. Izuku landed hard. Thud. He rolled across the ground and immediately stood. He looked around. The others were gone. Where is everyone? He was in a flooded zone. Water surrounded him. Buildings rose from the artificial lake. Izuku activated danger sense. Nothing nearby. Then he heard movement. Several villains appeared on the rooftops. There he is. Get him. Izuku lowered his stance. Fine. One villain charged. Izuku stepped forward. His fist struck the man's stomach. Boom. The villain flew across the water and crashed into a wall. Another attacked from behind. Izuku caught his wrist. Twist. Crack. The weapon dropped. Izuku kicked him into the water. Splash. 3 more rushed forward. Izuku moved between them. 1 strike. 2. 3. Each opponent collapsed without serious injury. Izuku looked around. I need to find everyone. His eyes narrowed. First, I need a way back. Across the facility, the other students were fighting to survive. Some had been separated into different zones. Some were surrounded. Some were already injured. Izuku couldn't see any of them. But his chakra sensing helped him. He closed his eyes. He focused. Chakra spread through his body. Then his senses expanded. He could detect movement, voices, footsteps, distant impacts. There. He opened his eyes. I can hear them. Izuku jumped onto a building. Then another. He moved across the artificial environment at incredible speed. He landed near a group of villains attacking several students. Get away from them. The villains turned. Another one. Izuku stepped forward. One villain swung a metal pipe. Izuku blocked it with his forearm. Crack. The pipe bent. The villain stared. Izuku struck his chest. Boom. He flew backward. Another villain attempted to grab Izuku from behind. Black strands suddenly emerged from his arm. Black whip wrapped around the attacker's body. Izuku pulled. The villain crashed into the ground. Thud. Everyone okay? The students nodded. Yes. Izuku pointed toward the exit. Move. They followed him. A loud explosion shook the facility. Boom. Izuku stopped. That wasn't a normal explosion. It was much stronger. He looked toward the central plaza. All Might. Aizawa had already been fighting. But Izuku sensed something much worse. He could feel the presence of Nomu. And something was approaching it. Izuku ran. The central plaza had become a battlefield. Aizawa was fighting desperately. His capture weapon moved through the air. He eliminated one villain. Then another. But there were too many. A large villain struck him. Boom. Aizawa crashed into the ground. Izuku arrived. A racer head. He sprinted toward him. Nomu turned. Its eyes locked onto Izuku. Izuku stopped. The creature's body radiated overwhelming strength. So you're the one. Nomu didn't speak. It charged. Izuku raised his arms. Boom. The collision shook the plaza. Izuku slid backward. His boots carved lines into the ground. He looked at his arms. Strong. Nomu attacked again. Izuku dodged. The punch missed him and shattered the ground. Boom. Izuku jumped backward. Danger sense screamed. Nomu was faster than it looked. Izuku activated his chakra. The Byakugo mark appeared on his forehead. Black lines spread across his face. Aizawa looked at him. Midoriya. Don't. Izuku glanced at him. I can handle it. Nomu charged again. Izuku met it head-on. Their fists collided. Boom. A shockwave spread across the plaza. Nomu didn't move. Izuku did. He flew backward and crashed through a wall. Crack. Midoriya. Aizawa shouted. Dust filled the area. For several seconds, there was no movement. Then a green glow appeared. Izuku stepped out of the rubble. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. He wiped it away. Okay. Green chakra surrounded his body. That one hurt. Nomu charged. Izuku disappeared. He appeared above Nomu. Heavenly Foot Spear. His heel slammed into the ground. Boom. The entire plaza shook. The floor cracked outward. Nomu's legs buckled. Izuku immediately followed. One punch. Boom. Nomu's head snapped backward. Another. Boom. Its body crashed through several walls. The shockwave sent villains flying. Aizawa stared. What kind of strength? Izuku landed. Stay down. Nomu rose again. Its wounds began closing. Izuku narrowed his eyes. Regeneration. Nomu charged. Izuku raised his guard. The creature's fist struck him. Boom. Izuku was pushed backward. His arms were fractured. But green chakra immediately spread through them. Crack. The bones repaired themselves. Aizawa's eyes widened. Healing himself. Izuku clenched his fists. This is getting annoying. Nomu attacked again. Izuku stepped aside. His fist struck the creature's ribs. Boom. Nomu stumbled. Izuku followed with a knee. Boom. Then an elbow. Boom. Then a downward strike. Boom. Each attack was precise. Not random. Not wild. Every blow targeted a joint, muscle group, or structural weakness. Nomu's movements became slower. Izuku noticed. You're strong. He raised his fist. But you're predictable. Nomu roared. Roar. It launched itself forward. Izuku lowered his stance. Chakra gathered into his right fist. The Byakugo seal glowed brighter. One more. He punched. Boom. The shockwave blasted across the plaza. Nomu was thrown backward. It crashed through the floor. Dust filled the battlefield. Izuku stood in the center. His costume was torn. His breathing was heavy. But he remained standing. Then a familiar voice echoed through the facility. Young Midoriya. Izuku looked up. All Might had arrived. All Might. The symbol of peace landed between Izuku and Nomu. Boom. The ground shook beneath his feet. All Might looked at Izuku. Are you injured? Nothing serious. Green chakra healed the remaining wounds. All Might stared. Remarkable. Izuku pointed toward Nomu. That thing has extreme physical strength, shock absorption, and regeneration. All Might's expression became serious. Then we will stop it together. Izuku nodded. Right. Nomu stood again. All Might clenched his fists. Izuku took his stance beside him. For the first time since arriving at the U.S.J., Izuku smiled. Let's save everyone. All Might grinned. Indeed. The two heroes charged. Boom. The battle for the U.S.J. had begun in earnest. The central plaza of the U.S.J. shook violently. Boom. Izuku landed beside All Might, his feet sliding across the cracked concrete. Across from them, Nomu slowly stood. The damage from Izuku's previous attacks was already disappearing. Broken skin closed. Damaged muscles repaired themselves. Even the cracks across its body seemed to vanish. Izuku narrowed his eyes. Its regeneration is faster than mine. All Might glanced at him. And it possesses incredible shock absorption. Then physical impact alone won't be enough. All Might smiled. I was thinking the same thing. Nomu suddenly disappeared. Izuku's danger sense screamed. Behind us. All Might turned. Nomu's fist was already there. Boom. All Might blocked the attack with both arms. The shockwave shattered the windows of the nearby buildings. Izuku moved immediately. He wrapped Black Whip around Nomu's leg and pulled. Now, All Might grabbed Nomu's arm. Together, they pulled in opposite directions. Nomu's body twisted. Izuku released Black Whip and drove his fist into its abdomen. Boom. Nomu barely moved. Again, Izuku struck the same location. Boom. Nothing. He struck again. Boom. Still nothing. Izuku jumped backward. Shock absorption is working. All Might nodded. Then perhaps I should attack from another direction. He rushed forward. Smash. His fist struck Nomu's chest. The creature was pushed several meters. But the force vanished almost immediately. Nomu remained standing. All Might frowned. Even my punches. Izuku looked closely. It's absorbing the impact. Then what do you suggest? Izuku looked at his own hand. Something different. Izuku closed his eyes. He slowed his breathing. The noise of the battlefield faded. His chakra moved through his body. He could feel his muscles, his bones, his blood. Every part of his body was under his control. Tsunade's voice echoed in his memory. Don't just make your attacks stronger. Make them more precise. Izuku opened his eyes. I know. All Might looked at him. Young Midoriya. Izuku stepped forward. I don't need to overpower it. He raised his fist. I need to attack what's underneath the strength. Nomu charged. Izuku didn't move. Danger sense warned him of the incoming attack. At the last possible moment, he stepped sideways. Nomu's fist passed his face. Izuku placed 2 fingers against its ribs. Chakra flowed into the creature. Medical chakra. Nothing happened. Izuku frowned. As expected, Nomu turned. Izuku jumped backward. All Might landed beside him. What did you discover? Its body isn't normal. Izuku looked toward Nomu. There are several different abilities inside it. Its body has been modified to withstand enormous physical stress. All Might clenched his fists. So if I attack the outside, shock absorption takes most of the damage. Izuku raised his fist. But if I send the force inside, All Might's eyes widened. You could bypass its defense. Izuku nodded. Exactly. Nomu charged again. This time, Izuku didn't dodge. He stepped forward. His right foot slammed into the ground. Crack. Chakra exploded through his muscles. He twisted his waist. His fist moved only a few centimeters. Chakra enhanced strike. Boom. His knuckles touched Nomu's abdomen. There was almost no visible explosion. Nomu stopped. Its body trembled. Izuku pulled his fist away. Got it. Nomu suddenly staggered. Its regeneration activated violently. Izuku watched carefully. It worked. All Might smiled. Then let's finish this. Nomu roared. Roar. It charged with greater speed than before. Izuku jumped. Black whip shot from his arms. Several tendrils wrapped around Nomu's body. Hold still. Nomu pulled. Izuku was dragged toward it. He immediately released Black Whip. Instead of resisting, he used the momentum. He spun through the air. His heel struck Nomu's jaw. Boom. The creature's head snapped sideways. Izuku landed. Nomu recovered almost instantly. It attacked again. Izuku blocked. Boom. His arms shook. He redirected the force. Another punch came. He ducked. Another. He stepped aside. Another. He caught the wrist. Izuku twisted. Crack. The joint broke. Nomu regenerated. Izuku kicked its knee. Boom. The leg bent backward. It regenerated. So it really doesn't stop. All Might appeared above them. Then we shall keep breaking it. All Might slammed both fists together. Boom. The shockwave knocked Nomu backward. Izuku used the opening. He sprinted forward. His fist glowed with concentrated chakra. 1 point. He struck Nomu's shoulder. Boom. 2. Its ribs. Boom. 3. Its abdomen. Boom. 4. Its hip. Boom. Nomu's body began losing balance. Izuku didn't stop. He moved around it with controlled footwork. Each strike was small, precise, deliberate, but the chakra traveled beyond the surface. Nomu's regeneration struggled to keep up. Its body began shaking. Izuku saw it. There. He stopped directly in front of Nomu. The creature raised both fists. Izuku lowered his stance. The Byakugo seal on his forehead glowed. Black lines spread across his face. This is the last one. All Might looked at him. Young Midoriya. Izuku pulled his right arm backward. I'll break through its shock absorption. Chakra gathered into 1 point. His fist became completely still. Then he moved. Boom. The punch connected directly with Nomu's abdomen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground beneath them collapsed. Crack. A violent shockwave erupted from inside Nomu's body. Boom. Nomu's eyes widened. Its entire torso twisted. The force traveled through its body instead of stopping at the surface. Its muscles ruptured. Its internal structures failed. Its regeneration activated. Then failed again. Izuku pushed harder. Stay down. Boom. Nomu was launched into the air. It crashed through several walls. Boom. Another wall collapsed. Boom. Finally, it slammed into the far side of the facility. Silence followed. Izuku stood motionless. His chest rose and fell. All Might looked at the destruction. Young Midoriya. Izuku looked toward the dust. It's still alive. The dust cleared. Nomu was lying in the crater. Its body was barely moving. Then its fingers twitched. Izuku's eyes narrowed. It's trying to regenerate. All Might stepped forward. Then I shall stop it. Izuku raised a hand. Wait. He walked toward Nomu. Green chakra surrounded both hands. I don't want to kill it. All Might looked at him. After everything it has done. It's still alive. Izuku crouched beside Nomu. If I can stop it without killing it, I'll do that. He placed his hands against its chest. Medical chakra entered the creature's body. Izuku immediately frowned. There was something deeply wrong. Multiple abnormal biological structures. Artificially enhanced muscles. Several foreign abilities interacting inside one body. This is... Izuku's expression hardened. Someone did this to you. Nomu didn't respond. Izuku continued working. He wasn't trying to heal Nomu completely. He was stabilizing its body. Stopping the internal collapse. Preventing further damage. After several seconds, the creature stopped twitching. Izuku pulled his hands away. It's stable. All Might looked surprised. You healed it. Not completely. Izuku stood. But it won't die. Aizawa, who had been watching from the ground, looked toward him. You're treating a villain after it attacked you. Izuku nodded. Yes. Aizawa sighed. You're troublesome. Izuku smiled. I've heard that before. Then a voice echoed through the plaza. Nomu. Izuku turned. Tamura Shigaraki stood among the ruins. His fingers twitched violently. His eyes were fixed on Nomu. Get up. Nomu didn't move. Get up. Shigaraki's voice became louder. Izuku stepped between them. It's over. Shigaraki stared at him. You. Izuku's danger sense immediately activated. Shigaraki raised one hand. I'll kill you. Izuku lowered his stance. Green chakra flickered around his body. Try. Shigaraki took one step forward. Then All Might landed between them. Boom. The ground cracked beneath his feet. You will not touch my student. Shigaraki's expression changed. Student. Izuku blinked. All Might looked back at him. That was quite an impressive technique. Izuku smiled. Thank you. Shigaraki backed away. Nomu. The black mist suddenly appeared beside him. Kurogiri. We should retreat. Shigaraki clenched his fists. But Nomu cannot continue. The portal opened. Shigaraki glared at Izuku. This isn't over. Izuku watched him carefully. I know. Kurogiri pulled Shigaraki backward. The two disappeared into the portal. Silence returned. The remaining villains were quickly captured. The students were gathered together. Some were injured. Some were exhausted. Aizawa was badly hurt. 13 had suffered serious injuries. Izuku immediately moved toward them. Let me help. Aizawa looked at him. You've already done enough. You're injured. I've had worse. Izuku ignored him. Please. Aizawa stared at him. Then finally nodded. Izuku placed his hands over Aizawa's damaged arm. Green chakra appeared. The swelling decreased. Fractured bones began returning to their proper positions. Aizawa watched silently. You really are a medical specialist. Izuku smiled. Yes. 13 was next. Her injuries were more severe. Izuku worked carefully. This will take longer. 13 nodded. Take your time. Green light surrounded her. Slowly. Her injuries stabilized. Izuku exhaled. Done. 13 looked at him. Thank you. You're welcome. All Might stood nearby. He looked at the students. Everyone was alive. Everyone had survived. Then he looked at Izuku. The boy was exhausted. His costume was torn. His forehead still carried the fading marks of the Byakugo. Yet he was already treating others. All Might smiled. Young Midoriya. Izuku turned. Yes. You did well. Izuku smiled. We did it together. All Might laughed. Indeed. Aizawa glanced toward them. Don't get too comfortable. Izuku looked at him. Why? Aizawa looked toward the destroyed training facility. Because tomorrow, the staff is going to have a very long conversation about why a Quirkless student nearly demolished the U.S.J. Izuku's expression became nervous. Oh. Mina laughed. You're in trouble, Midoriya. Ochako smiled. Probably. Izuku sighed. I was trying to keep the damage low. Kyoka looked at the enormous crater. That was low. Izuku looked at the crater. Yes. Everyone stared at him. Izuku quietly added, maybe. The class burst into laughter. For the first time since the villains had appeared, the tension finally disappeared. But somewhere far from the U.S.J., Shigaraki stood inside the darkness of a warp gate. His eyes remained fixed on the memory of Izuku's green chakra. That kid. His fingers scratched against his neck. He isn't a quirk user. Kurogiri remained silent. Shigaraki looked toward the unconscious Nomu. Then what the hell is he? There was no answer. And back at you. Izuku had no idea that the villains had already begun searching for the source of his power. The S.J. had finally become quiet. The villains had been captured or forced to retreat. The students were safe, but the aftermath was severe. Several students had minor injuries, while Aizawa and 13 had suffered much worse. Izuku stood in the medical area, watching the emergency workers move between injured students. His clothes were still damaged from the fight with Nomu. The diamond-shaped mark on his forehead had faded back to normal. But his attention wasn't on himself. It was on everyone else. Midoriya. Izuku turned. Aizawa was sitting against a wall while a medical worker examined his arm. "You should get yourself checked." "I'm fine." Aizawa narrowed his eyes. "You were thrown through a building. I healed the worst of it. That doesn't mean you aren't injured." Izuku looked down at his hands. There were several cuts across his fingers. He activated medical ninjutsu. Green chakra appeared. The cuts disappeared. Aizawa watched. "That's convenient. It helps. You make it look easy." Izuku smiled. It wasn't. A few meters away, 13 was lying on a stretcher. Her injuries were significantly more serious. Her breathing was shallow. The medical staff were working quickly. Izuku approached. "Can I help?" One of the medical workers shook his head. "We're already treating her." Izuku looked at 13, then at the equipment. "Her condition is getting worse." The worker frowned. "How can you tell?" "Her breathing pattern." Izuku stepped closer. "There's internal damage." The worker looked at the monitor. The readings confirmed it. "We're losing blood pressure." Izuku immediately knelt beside her. "Let me try." The medical worker hesitated. "Midoriya, you're a student." "I know." Izuku looked at him. "But I can heal her." Aizawa watched from behind. "Let him." The worker stepped aside. Izuku placed both hands against 13's body. Green chakra spread outward. Medical ninjutsu. The glow became brighter. Izuku closed his eyes. He could feel the damage beneath her skin. Fractured bones. Torn muscles. Damaged blood vessels. Internal bleeding. He carefully directed his chakra through each affected area. Slowly, his breathing became steady. "Repair the blood vessels first." Green light pulsed. The bleeding slowed. Then the tissue. The damaged muscles began reconnecting. 13's breathing became steadier. And the bones. Crack. The fractures shifted back into position. The medical staff stared at the monitors. "Her blood pressure is stabilizing. The bleeding has stopped." Izuku continued. He couldn't afford to rush. Tsunade's teachings had been clear. Healing wasn't about pouring more chakra into an injury. It was about controlling every movement of that chakra. Too much could cause further damage. Too little wouldn't be enough. Izuku carefully repaired the remaining injuries. After several minutes, the green glow faded. He sat back. "She's stable." The medical worker checked the monitor. "You're right." 13 slowly opened her eyes. "Midoriya." Izuku smiled. "You're okay." She looked at him. "You healed me." "Yes. Thank you." "You're welcome." Izuku stood. Then his knees suddenly weakened. Thud. He caught himself against the stretcher. Aizawa immediately noticed. "Midoriya." Izuku shook his head. "I'm fine." Aizawa walked toward him. "You're exhausted." "I can still move." "That's not what I said." Izuku smiled weakly. "I know." Later that evening, the students were gathered in one of the safer sections of the facility. Some were sitting. Some were lying down. Some were talking about what had happened. Mina looked toward Izuku. "You fought that giant monster." Izuku nodded. "Yes." "And survived." "Yes." "Then healed Aizawa-sensei." "Yes." "Then healed 13. "Yes." Mina stared. "Are you actually human?" Izuku blinked. "Yes." Suyu tilted her head. "You're very strange, Midoriya." "I've heard that today." Ochako laughed. "You should get used to it." Izuku smiled. Momo approached him. "May I ask something?" "Of course." "Your healing ability." "Yes." "Could it really repair almost any injury?" Izuku thought for a moment. Not everything. Momo looked surprised. There are limits. Of course. Izuku explained. If the body is completely destroyed, I can't simply recreate it. So you need enough biological material remaining. Yes. And you need sufficient chakra. Correct. Momo nodded. That makes sense. Izuku opened his notebook. I've been keeping track of the limits. Momo looked at the notebook. You already recorded them. I record everything. Kyoka leaned over. That's probably why your notebook is enormous. Izuku looked at it. Several pages were covered with notes from the U.S.J. incident. I have a lot to write about. The next morning, Izuku was summoned to the staff office. Aizawa was already there. All Might stood beside him. 13 was also present. Izuku sat across from them. You wanted to see me. Aizawa nodded. We need to discuss your abilities. Izuku sat straight. All right. Aizawa placed several photographs on the table. They showed the battlefield, the destroyed walls, the crater created by Izuku's attacks, and the injuries he had treated. You used several abilities. Izuku nodded. Yes. Explain them. Izuku took a breath. Chakra enhancement, physical reinforcement, medical ninjutsu, black whip. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Black whip. It's one of my techniques. Izuku demonstrated. Black tendrils emerged from his arm. They moved like flexible ropes before disappearing again. Aizawa stared. You have multiple abilities. Yes. Yet you're quirkless. Yes. Aizawa sighed. This is becoming complicated. All Might laughed. Perhaps you should stop trying to classify him. Aizawa looked at him. That's not how school records work. Aizawa turned toward Izuku. There's another problem. What? You used your regeneration during combat. Yes. How much can you heal? Izuku thought about it. With enough chakra. A lot. How much is enough? I don't know yet. Aizawa frowned. Then find out. Izuku blinked. How? Training. Aizawa stood. If you're going to continue using this ability as a hero, we need to know its limits. Izuku nodded. Understood. All Might smiled. I believe that will be an interesting training exercise. The training began that afternoon. Izuku stood inside a reinforced training room. Aizawa watched from behind reinforced glass. Recovery Girl was present as well. Begin. A mechanical arm struck Izuku. Boom. He blocked. Another attack came. He dodged. A third hit his shoulder. Crack. His shoulder dislocated. Izuku immediately activated medical ninjutsu. Green chakra spread through his arm. Crack. The shoulder returned to normal. Recovery Girl watched carefully. His healing is extremely fast. Aizawa nodded. And he doesn't appear to lose consciousness from the pain. Izuku continued. The machines became faster. One strike hit his ribs. Crack. Another hit his leg. Crack. Izuku stumbled. Green chakra activated. His ribs healed. His leg recovered. He stood again. Again. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yes. The machines attacked. Boom. Crack. Thud. Izuku continued healing. His body recovered almost as quickly as it was damaged. But after several minutes, his movements began slowing. His breathing became heavier. The green glow around his body weakened. Izuku finally dropped to one knee. Aizawa immediately stopped the machines. Enough. Izuku looked up. I can continue. No. Aizawa entered the room. You're out of chakra. Izuku frowned. Not completely. Close enough. Izuku sat down. He looked at his hands. So that's the limit. Aizawa nodded. You can regenerate from serious injuries, but continuous healing consumes a lot of energy. Yes. Which means you're not invincible. Izuku smiled. I never thought I was. Aizawa stared at him. Good. That night, Izuku returned to his dorm room. He opened his notebook. On a fresh page, he wrote, Medical ninjutsu limitations. Then he listed everything he had learned. Minor injuries. Almost instantaneous. Fractures. Several seconds. Internal damage. Significantly higher chakra consumption. Severe injuries. Possible, but exhausting. Continuous regeneration. Dangerous if chakra reserves become depleted. Izuku looked at the list. Then he added one final sentence. Never assume regeneration makes him invincible. He closed the notebook. Then he touched the necklace around his neck. Tsunade Sensei would probably say the same thing. The following day, the U.S.J. incident became national news. Reports described the attack. Many people were shocked that villains had infiltrated U.A. But another story quickly spread. A student had fought a monstrous villain. A student had protected his classmates. A student had healed injured heroes. The media didn't know exactly how he did it. But they knew his name. Izuku Midoriya. In a dark room somewhere far away, Shigaraki watched the television. Footage showed Izuku standing beside All Might. His fists were surrounded by green chakra. Shigaraki scratched his neck. That kid. Kurogiri stood nearby. Yes. He isn't using a quirk. Apparently not. Shigaraki stared at the screen. Then we need to find out what he is. Back at U.A. Izuku stood on the training field. The sun was beginning to set. He raised his fist. Green chakra flowed around his arm. The Byakugo mark appeared on his forehead. He took a stance. Then punched the air. Boom. The shockwave crossed the field. Izuku lowered his fist. He looked toward the horizon. The U.S.J. had taught him something important. Being strong enough to win a fight wasn't enough. He needed to know how to keep people alive afterward. That was why he had trained under Tsunade. And now, every battle at U.A. would test whether those lessons were enough. Izuku opened his notebook. Next training objective. He wrote carefully. Improve medical ninjutsu efficiency. Then he added another. Develop stronger defensive techniques. He closed the notebook. All right. Green lightning-like chakra flickered around his body. Let's train. The U.S.J. incident had changed the atmosphere at U.A. The students were still attending classes, but the teachers had become more cautious. Security had been increased. Patrols had been added around the campus. And Izuku had noticed something else. Aizawa was watching him more closely. Not because he distrusted him. Because he wanted to understand exactly what Izuku was capable of. That morning, Izuku stood alone in the training field. His hands were wrapped in bandages. He had spent the previous hour practicing chakra control. 100 small rocks were scattered across the ground. His objective was simple. Destroy only the marked targets. Izuku took a breath. Focus. He moved. Tap. His finger struck the first rock. Crack. It shattered. He turned. Another. Crack. Another. Crack. His movements were fast but controlled. He didn't create unnecessary shockwaves. He didn't damage the surrounding area. After several minutes, every marked rock had been destroyed. Aizawa watched from a distance. Much better. Izuku turned. Sensei. Your control has improved. Thank you. Aizawa approached. Your problem isn't power. Izuku nodded. It's control. Correct. Aizawa looked toward the destroyed targets. If you keep improving that, you'll be able to fight in crowded areas without causing excessive damage. Izuku smiled. That's the goal. Elsewhere, far from U.A. A dark room was filled with screens. Shigaraki stood in front of one of them. The screen displayed footage from the U.S.J. Izuku appeared in the center of the battlefield. Green chakra surrounded his body. He struck Nomu. Boom. The footage froze. Shigaraki stared. He doesn't use a quirk. Kurogiri stood behind him. That appears to be the case. Then what is it? We don't know. Shigaraki scratched his neck. Find out. How? Watch him. Kurogiri remained silent. Shigaraki pointed at the screen. He goes to school every day. His fingers twitched. We'll find out what makes him so strong. Several days later, Izuku was walking home after training. The sun was already setting. He carried his notebook under one arm. His thoughts were focused on his next training session. Then danger sense activated. Izuku stopped. Someone was watching him. He looked around. Nothing. The street was nearly empty. He continued walking. Then he heard footsteps. 1, 2, 3. Izuku turned. A man stood at the end of the street. He wore a dark coat. His face was hidden beneath a hood. Midoriya Izuku. Izuku's expression hardened. Who are you? The man stepped forward. We've heard interesting things about you. Izuku's hand moved slightly. Chakra gathered around his fingers. If you're a villain, you should leave. The man laughed. You're confident. I've had training. We know. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Danger sense became stronger. How do you know me? The man didn't answer. Instead, several figures emerged from the surrounding alleys. Izuku counted them. 8, then 12. More were approaching. Surround him. Izuku sighed. Seriously. He placed his notebook on the ground. I really don't want to damage this. The first attacker rushed forward. Izuku stepped aside. His elbow struck the man's chest. Boom. The attacker flew backward. Another attacked from the side. Izuku ducked. Black whip shot from his arm. It wrapped around the man's leg. Izuku pulled. Thud. The attacker crashed into the pavement. Two more charged. Izuku moved between them. One punch. Boom. Another. Boom. Both collapsed. The remaining attackers stopped. What the hell is he? Izuku looked at them. I'm a student. One of them shouted. Attack him. They rushed forward together. Izuku lowered his stance. Chakra flooded his legs. He disappeared. Within seconds, every attacker was on the ground. None were seriously injured. Izuku walked toward the hooded man. Your turn. The man stepped backward. You. Izuku kept approaching. Who sent you? The man reached into his coat. Danger sense exploded. Izuku moved instantly. A projectile flew past his head. Crack. It struck the wall behind him. Izuku's expression changed. You're using a weapon. He moved forward. The man activated his quirk. His body suddenly became covered in thick armor. You can't hurt me. Izuku's fist connected. Boom. The armor cracked. The man staggered. What? Izuku grabbed his arm. You don't need to tell me who sent you. He twisted. Crack. The man's arm fell limp. Your body already told me. The man stared. What? Izuku pointed at his eyes. You looked toward that alley before attacking. He pointed behind the man. There's someone else there. The hooded man's face went pale. Izuku turned. Come out. Silence. Then a figure stepped from the shadows. Izuku immediately recognized the posture. The figure had pale skin. Red eyes. Hands covered parts of his body. Izuku's danger sense screamed. You. Tamura Shigaraki stared at him. So you really can sense danger. Izuku lowered his stance. You attacked you. And you ruined everything. Shigaraki scratched his neck. You destroyed Nomu. It attacked my teacher. You healed it. Izuku frowned. It was injured. Shigaraki stared at him as though he couldn't understand the answer. You're weird. I've been told. Shigaraki suddenly vanished. Izuku's danger sense exploded. Behind. Shigaraki's hand reached for Izuku's shoulder. Izuku twisted away. His fingertips grazed his costume. The fabric began disintegrating. Izuku immediately jumped backward. His eyes widened. Decay. Shigaraki smiled. Now you understand. Izuku looked at the damaged part of his costume. One touch. Yes. Shigaraki stepped forward. And everything falls apart. Izuku's expression became serious. Then I won't let you touch me. Shigaraki rushed forward. Izuku moved backward. Shigaraki's fingers struck the pavement. Crack. The ground began crumbling. The decay spread rapidly. Izuku jumped onto a nearby wall. The ground beneath him collapsed. Boom. He launched himself into the air. Black Whip shot downward. It wrapped around a streetlight. Izuku swung around the intersection. Shigaraki looked up. Izuku came down with a chakra-enhanced kick. Boom. Shigaraki blocked. The impact pushed him several meters. He scratched against the pavement. Strong. Izuku landed. You've gotten stronger since the U.S.J. Shigaraki smiled. So have you. He raised his hand. Izuku's danger sense warned him. Several figures appeared behind him. Kurogiri opened a warp gate. Master Shigaraki. Izuku immediately turned. You're leaving. Not yet. Shigaraki rushed forward. Izuku prepared to attack, but Shigaraki suddenly stopped. We know enough. Izuku frowned. What? Shigaraki smiled. You heal yourself. He pointed toward Izuku's forehead. You have some kind of stored energy. Izuku's eyes narrowed. And, we'll find out the rest later. Kurogiri's portal expanded. Izuku moved. Black Whip shot toward Shigaraki, but the portal swallowed him. Shigaraki disappeared. Izuku's Black Whip struck empty air. Silence returned. The police arrived minutes later. The captured attackers were taken away. Izuku retrieved his notebook from the ground. It had a small tear on the cover. He sighed. Good thing the pages are fine. Aizawa arrived shortly afterward. He looked at the unconscious villains. Then at Izuku. You fought Shigaraki. Izuku nodded. Yes. Alone. Yes. Aizawa's expression hardened. Don't do that again. Izuku looked surprised. But I won. That's not the point. Aizawa stepped closer. He has an ability that can kill you with one touch. I know. And he came specifically because of you. Izuku was silent. Aizawa looked toward the damaged street. This isn't random anymore. Izuku nodded. I know. Later that night, Izuku sat in his dorm room. He opened his notebook. A new page was dedicated to Shigaraki. Tamura Shigaraki. Quirk. Decay. Activation. Physical contact. Dangerous at close range. Likely requires direct contact. Izuku paused. Then he added. Possible weakness. Distance and mobility. He closed the notebook. His hand moved toward the necklace around his neck. Tsunade Sensei. He remembered her words. Don't underestimate an opponent simply because you think you can defeat them. Izuku nodded. I won't. The following day, Izuku returned to class. The other students immediately noticed his damaged costume. Mina pointed at him. Midoriya. What happened? Nothing serious. Kyoka looked at the torn fabric. That doesn't look like nothing. Ochako approached. Are you hurt? No. Izuku smiled. I'm fine. Tsuyu looked at him carefully. You're lying a little, Ribbit. Izuku blinked. I am. Yes. Izuku sighed. All right. Something happened yesterday. The room became quiet. Aizawa entered. We'll discuss it later. Izuku nodded. The class returned to their seats. But something had changed. Izuku could feel it. The villains weren't simply attacking you. They were watching him, studying him. And Shigaraki had already learned that Izuku's strength came from something he didn't understand. Izuku looked down at his hands. Green chakra flickered faintly around his fingers. He clenched his fist. Next time. His eyes hardened. I'll be ready. Far away, Shigaraki watched another recording. The screen showed Izuku's fight. He smiled. Let's see how strong that quirkless hero can really become. The screen went dark. The U.A. Sports Festival had arrived. The stadium was packed. Thousands of spectators filled the seats while cameras pointed toward the students entering the arena. Reporters were everywhere, eager to see the next generation of heroes. Izuku walked through the entrance with Class 1A. His hero costume had been modified for combat. The green suit covered his body completely, reinforced at several points to withstand his chakra-enhanced movements. The familiar necklace given to him by Tsunade rested beneath his collar. He looked around the stadium. That's a lot of people. Mina grinned. Nervous? Not really. Seriously. Izuku nodded. I've fought worse situations. Kyoka looked at him. That's probably the most concerning answer you could give. Ochako laughed. Izuku smiled. Then the announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. Welcome, everyone. The crowd erupted. To the U.A. Sports Festival. The roar was deafening. Izuku looked toward the massive arena. This wasn't a normal competition. Everyone here wanted to prove themselves. He clenched his fist. All right. The opening ceremony ended quickly. The first event was announced. The obstacle race. The students lined up at the starting point. Izuku stood near the front. Byakugo was beside him. Todoroki stood several places away. Tenya adjusted his glasses. Everyone should remain focused. Byakugo ignored him. Move out of my way, extras. Izuku glanced toward the enormous gate. The course has 4 major obstacles. Tenya looked at him. You've already analyzed it. Izuku nodded. The first section is filled with robots. He pointed toward the distance. Then there's a canyon, followed by a cavalry trap, and finally a minefield. Tenya blinked. You memorized all of that? Yes. The announcer raised his microphone. Competitors, get ready. Izuku lowered his stance. Start. Boom. Hundreds of students rushed forward. Izuku moved instantly. Chakra surged through his legs. He shot past the crowd. Several students stared. He's already gone. The first obstacle appeared. Giant robots. Izuku didn't slow down. One robot swung its arm. Izuku jumped over it. Another blocked his path. He landed on its shoulder. Then struck downward. Boom. The machine collapsed. Izuku used the falling robot as a platform and launched himself forward. Another machine appeared. He kicked it aside. Boom. The crowd erupted. Midoriya is tearing through the robots. Izuku continued. He wasn't using his full strength. There was no reason to. The obstacle course wasn't about destroying everything. It was about reaching the finish line. The canyon came next. A massive gap separated the two sides. Many students slowed down. Izuku didn't. He crouched. Chakra gathered around his legs. Jump. He launched himself across the canyon. Wind rushed past his face. He landed on the opposite side without losing balance. Behind him, several students were still struggling. Izuku continued forward. Then he heard a familiar voice. Midoriya. Ochako was approaching. She had used her quirk to reduce her own weight and was floating over part of the canyon. Izuku smiled. Keep going. You too. They continued. The third obstacle was the cavalry battle. Izuku immediately understood the problem. Students were forming teams. Others were targeting the highest scores. And Izuku had accumulated a massive lead, which meant he had become the biggest target. Several students surrounded him. There he is. Get his headband. Izuku looked at the approaching teams. I expected this. Black Whip emerged from his arms. The tendrils wrapped around nearby structures. Izuku pulled himself upward. He jumped over the attacking teams. One group tried to follow. He redirected himself through the air. Another team attacked. Izuku grabbed their horse formation with Black Whip and gently pulled it sideways. The entire group lost balance. Thud. They landed safely on the ground. Izuku continued moving. He didn't want anyone seriously injured. He's impossible to catch. A student shouted. Izuku landed. Then another team approached. He smiled. All right. Chakra flowed into his legs. Let's finish this. He moved. Within seconds, he reached the final section. The minefield was waiting. Izuku stopped. He studied the ground. Small markers were scattered everywhere. He could sense which areas had been disturbed. Their pressure mines. He took one step. Nothing happened. Another. Nothing. Then, boom. A nearby mine exploded. Izuku jumped over it. Another explosion followed. Boom. Then another. Boom. The stadium filled with smoke. Izuku emerged from it. His costume was covered in dust. He looked toward the finish line. Almost there. He accelerated. He crossed the line. The crowd erupted. Izuku Midoriya takes first place. Izuku slowed down. He looked back. Other students were still arriving. He smiled. Good. After the obstacle race, the students gathered. The next event was announced. The cavalry battle. Izuku looked at the scoreboard. His score was enormous. That meant everyone would target him. Mina walked toward him. You're going to need a team. Izuku nodded. I know. Ochako approached. Can I join? Izuku smiled. Of course. Tsuyu raised her hand. Me too. Ribbit. Izuku nodded. Then another voice came from behind. I'll join. Momo stepped forward. Izuku looked at her. All right. The team was formed. Ochako, Tsuyu, Momo, Izuku. They prepared for the battle. We need to protect the headband, Momo said. Izuku nodded. I'll handle defense. Ochako looked at him. You can do that. Yes. Tsuyu smiled. I believe him. The battle began. Teams immediately rushed toward Izuku. Black Whip extended from his arms. It caught incoming headbands, then threw them away. Another team charged. Izuku jumped. Tsuyu used her tongue to pull herself around an obstacle. Momo created a shield. Ochako touched a large piece of debris. Zero gravity. The debris floated. Izuku kicked it. Boom. The floating object flew across the arena and blocked another team's path. Nice. Ochako shouted. Izuku smiled. Good timing. Another team approached from behind. Izuku sensed them. Danger sense activated. He turned. Behind us. Momo immediately created another shield. The attack bounced away. Izuku moved. Black Whip wrapped around the opposing team's horse formation. He pulled them forward. They lost their balance. Thud. Their headband fell. Ochako caught it. Got it. Izuku nodded. Keep it safe. The cavalry battle ended. Izuku's team qualified for the tournament. The stadium erupted again. The students returned to the waiting area. Izuku sat down. His breathing was calm. He had barely used his chakra. Then he heard a voice. Midoriya. He looked up. Nejire Hado stood near the entrance. She was one of the big three. Her blue hair swayed as she approached. That was amazing. Izuku blinked. Thank you. How does your power work? Chakra. What's chakra? Izuku opened his mouth. Nejire immediately continued. Does it come from your body? Your quirk. Can you run out? Can you use it to heal people? Can you fly? How strong are you? Izuku stared. That's a lot of questions. Nejire laughed. I'm curious. Izuku smiled. I can explain some of it. Nejire's eyes lit up. Really? Yes. She sat beside him. Great. Nearby, Kami Yutsushimi was watching. She had been observing Izuku since the obstacle race. He's kinda intense. Another student looked at her. You like him? Kami smiled. Maybe. She watched Izuku speaking with Nejire. He's cute when he's explaining stuff. The tournament finally began. The first matches passed quickly. Students fought desperately. Izuku watched every battle. He took notes. Strength, mobility, range, weakness. His notebook quickly filled with information. Then the announcer called his name. Next match. The stadium became louder. Izuku Midoriya. Izuku stood. His opponent entered from the other side. The crowd cheered. Izuku walked into the arena. He stopped in the center. His opponent raised his fists. I've heard you're strong. Izuku nodded. I am. Then I'll defeat you. Izuku lowered his stance. Come at me. The signal sounded. The opponent charged. Izuku disappeared. He appeared behind him. A gentle strike to the back. Thud. The opponent fell unconscious. Silence. Then the crowd exploded. That's it. Izuku looked at the fallen student. He'll be fine. The referee checked the student. He's conscious. Izuku stepped back. The referee raised his hand. Winner. Izuku Midoriya. One match after another followed. Izuku continued winning. He never used his full strength. He never injured anyone seriously. He simply redirected attacks, used precise strikes, and forced his opponents out of bounds. The audience began calling him different names. The Chakra Monster. The Medical Hero. The Green Comet. Izuku ignored the names. He only cared about the competition. Eventually, he reached the later rounds. From the stands, several girls watched him carefully. Ochako smiled whenever he won. Tsuyu watched quietly. Momo analyzed his movements. Kyoka pretended not to care. Mina openly cheered. Class 1B was also watching. Kendo crossed her arms. He's holding back. Setsuna grinned. By a lot. Pony nodded. He could probably finish these fights instantly. Abara looked toward him. His restraint is admirable. Then the announcer revealed the next matchup. The next battle. Izuku looked toward the arena entrance. Izuku Midoriya. The crowd became silent. Versus Shoto Todoroki. The stadium erupted. Todoroki walked into the arena. Izuku stood opposite him. The two stared at each other. Todoroki's left side began producing ice. Cold spread across the arena. Izuku lowered his stance. Chakra gathered around his feet. He remembered Tsunade's training. Watch your opponent. Don't attack blindly. Find the opening. Todoroki raised his hand. Ice began spreading across the ground. Crack. Izuku smiled slightly. All right. He stepped forward. Let's see what you've got. The stadium erupted as the battle began. The stadium fell silent. Izuku stood at one side of the arena. Shoto Todoroki stood opposite him. Cold air spread across the ground. Crack. A wall of ice suddenly erupted from Todoroki's left side. Izuku jumped. The ice passed beneath his feet and continued toward the edge of the arena. Izuku landed on top of the frozen surface. Todoroki immediately followed with another wave. Ice. Crack. The entire arena began turning white. Izuku moved across the surface, using chakra to keep his footing. His range is enormous. He watched Todoroki carefully. But he's controlling the direction. Izuku crouched. His fingers touched the ice. Chakra flowed through his hand. The frozen surface beneath him cracked. Then he launched himself forward. Todoroki raised another wall. Izuku punched it. Boom. The ice shattered. Pieces flew in every direction. Todoroki's eyes narrowed. You can break through my ice. Yes. Izuku landed. But I'm not here to destroy you. Todoroki stared at him. Then you're going to lose. He raised his left hand. Another enormous wave of ice surged forward. Izuku jumped over it. The temperature dropped rapidly. His breath became visible. He landed on a narrow piece of broken ice. Todoroki attacked again. Crack. Izuku moved. Another wave. Crack. He moved again. Then another. Crack. Izuku continued dodging. The audience began cheering. Todoroki is covering the entire arena. Midoriya can't get close. Izuku didn't panic. He studied the battlefield. The ice was becoming thicker. That was the problem. If he allowed Todoroki to continue, his movement would become more restricted. Izuku needed to end the battle quickly. He gathered chakra into his legs. Then he vanished. Todoroki's eyes widened. Izuku appeared directly in front of him. Todoroki raised his right hand. Flames erupted. Whoosh. Heat struck Izuku's face. Izuku jumped backward. His eyebrows were slightly singed. He landed. So you can use fire too. Todoroki stared at him. I've always been able to. Izuku smiled. Then use both. Todoroki's expression changed. What? You're strong enough to use both sides. Izuku looked at the ice covering the arena. Why are you limiting yourself? Todoroki's face hardened. Don't tell me what to do. Flames erupted from his left side. Whoosh. At the same time, ice surged from his right. The two attacks spread across the arena. The audience erupted. Izuku's danger sense screamed. He crossed his arms. Chakra gathered around his body. Boom. The combined attack struck him. Smoke covered the arena. Midoriya. Ochako jumped from her seat. Mina stood up. That looked bad. The smoke slowly cleared. Izuku was standing. His costume had several scorch marks. Small cuts covered his arms. Green chakra immediately surrounded his body. The injuries disappeared. He rolled his shoulders. That's better. Todoroki stared. You healed yourself. Yes. How? Medical ninjutsu. Todoroki's expression remained serious. Then I'll keep attacking. Izuku nodded. That's fine. Todoroki attacked again. Flames and ice covered the arena. Izuku moved between them. His chakra-enhanced footwork allowed him to accelerate and change direction instantly. He stepped onto a rising ice wall. Then jumped. He landed behind Todoroki. Todoroki turned. Izuku's fist stopped inches from his face. The wind from the punch blew Todoroki's hair backward. The ground beneath Izuku's fist cracked. Crack. Todoroki froze. Izuku lowered his arm. If I hit you directly, you'll be out. Todoroki stared. Then why didn't you? Because there's no reason to hurt you. Todoroki clenched his fist. Don't pity me. I'm not. Then fight seriously. Izuku sighed. All right. He stepped backward. Chakra surged through his body. The Byakugo mark appeared on his forehead. Black lines spread across his skin. The crowd reacted immediately. What is that? His forehead. Another ability. Todoroki watched carefully. Izuku lowered his stance. I'll use enough power to make you take me seriously. Todoroki raised both hands. Ice and fire erupted simultaneously. Boom. The two forces collided in the center. Steam filled the arena. Izuku moved through it. Todoroki couldn't see him. Izuku could. Danger sense guided him through the battlefield. He appeared at Todoroki's side. A palm strike. Boom. Todoroki was pushed backward. He created an ice wall. Izuku smashed through it. Boom. Another wall. Boom. Another. Boom. Finally, Izuku reached him. Todoroki raised his fist. Izuku caught it. You're hesitating. Todoroki's eyes widened. Izuku pushed him backward. You don't have to choose between them. Todoroki remained silent. Izuku released his hand. Both are yours. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Todoroki looked toward his left side. His flames flickered. Izuku watched him carefully. The flames became stronger. Whoosh. Heat spread across the arena. Todoroki raised his head. Fine. He released both powers at once. Ice and fire exploded outward. Boom. The shockwave pushed Izuku backward. Izuku dug his feet into the ground. Crack. He stopped himself. That's more like it. The final exchange began. Todoroki gathered everything he had. An enormous wall of ice rose behind him. Flames erupted around his body. The temperature changed violently. The audience fell silent. Izuku took a deep breath. He concentrated chakra into his right fist. Not too much. Just enough. Sukit. He disappeared. Todoroki launched his attack. Boom. Izuku's fist collided with the ice. The entire structure shattered. Crack. He continued forward. The flames struck him. His chakra shield absorbed the heat. He pushed through. Todoroki tried to create another wall. Izuku broke through it. Then he stopped directly in front of him. His fist remained inches from Todoroki's chest. The ground beneath them cracked from the pressure. Todoroki stared. Izuku lowered his fist. You're finished. Todoroki looked at the ground. He had crossed the boundary. The referee raised his arm. Shoto Todoroki has been pushed out of bounds. The stadium erupted. Winner, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku immediately turned toward Todoroki. Are you okay? Todoroki looked at him. Yes. Izuku held out his hand. Todoroki stared at it for a moment. Then accepted it. Izuku pulled him upright. That was a good fight. Todoroki nodded. You were holding back. Yes. How much? Izuku smiled. Enough. Todoroki stared at him. Then, surprisingly, he gave a small smile. I'll beat you someday. Izuku nodded. I'll be waiting. The students returned to the waiting area. Ochako immediately approached Izuku. That was amazing. Izuku smiled. Thanks. You weren't even using your full strength. I didn't need to. Tsuyu nodded. You were very careful, Ribbit. Momo looked at the markings on his forehead. Does using that technique consume a lot of chakra? Yes. Then you shouldn't activate it unnecessarily. Izuku smiled. That's what my teacher used to say. Mina appeared beside them. Your teacher sounds strict. She was. How strict? Izuku thought about it. Very. Mina laughed. I'd like to meet her. Izuku smiled. Maybe someday. High above the arena, several pro heroes had been watching the match. Mirko leaned forward in her seat. Now that's a kid with some serious power. Yukio remained focused on Izuku. His control is even more impressive. Mirko grinned. He's got monstrous strength and restraint. That's what makes him interesting. Near them, Midnight watched the replay. He's already fighting like an experienced professional. Another hero nodded. And he's still a first year. Back in the waiting area, Izuku looked toward the stadium. The next match was about to begin. He opened his notebook. But before he could write, someone approached him. Midoriya. Izuku looked up. Nejire stood in front of him. That was incredible. Thank you. Your chakra thing is really interesting. She leaned closer. Can you use it to fly? Not exactly. Can you heal other people? Yes. Can you make yourself stronger? Yes. Can you? Izuku laughed. You have a lot of questions. Nejire smiled. I told you I'm curious. Izuku nodded. I'll answer them later. Promise. Promise. Nejire smiled brightly. Great. Kami was watching from a few seats away. She smiled. He's got everyone interested. She glanced toward the other girls watching Izuku. This is gonna get complicated. The festival continued. Izuku had advanced to the next round. His victory over Todoroki had made him one of the most talked about students in the tournament. But Izuku didn't seem interested in the attention. He simply sat down and opened his notebook. He wrote, Todoroki Shoto, dual element quirk, excellent area control, high offensive output. Then he paused. He added one final note. Potential increases dramatically when both sides are used together. Izuku closed the notebook. He looked toward the arena. The crowd was still cheering. The sports festival was far from over. And somewhere among the spectators, pro heroes were already discussing which agency should try to recruit him. Izuku had no idea that his performance had attracted the attention of heroes far beyond UA. Especially one particular rabbit-themed hero who was already eager to see just how hard he could hit. The UA sports festival had ended. Izuku had made it through the tournament, but the attention that followed was much greater than he expected. Pro heroes had watched his matches. Agencies had sent invitations. Reporters had tried to interview him. Izuku politely declined most of them. He wasn't interested in fame yet. He wanted experience. That was why he accepted an internship with a hero agency in Hosu City. Hosu was much larger than Musutafu. The streets were crowded with civilians, heroes, and emergency vehicles. Izuku walked beside his internship supervisor while taking notes. Hosu has a high crime rate compared to several other cities, he said. His supervisor nodded. That's why patrols are important. Izuku closed his notebook. Understood. He looked around. His danger sense remained quiet. For the moment, everything seemed normal. Then his phone vibrated. Izuku checked the message. A report had come in. Possible villain activity in one of the industrial districts. We're moving. Izuku arrived at the district several minutes later. The streets were unusually empty. He immediately became suspicious. Danger sense activated. A faint warning passed through his head. Someone's here. He stopped. Then he heard a voice. Help. Izuku turned toward the alley. He ran inside. Nothing. Only a broken trash container. Strange. Danger sense became stronger. Then, slash. A blade cut through the air. Izuku leaned backward. The sword passed inches from his face. He immediately stepped away. A masked man stood in the shadows. Several swords were attached to his body. Izuku recognized him. Hero killer. Stain. Izuku's expression hardened. You're Stain. The villain tilted his head. You know my name. Everyone does. Stain drew another blade. Then you should know what happens next. Izuku lowered his stance. You're not touching anyone. Stain disappeared. Izuku sensed the attack. He moved sideways. Slash. The blade cut through his sleeve. Izuku countered with a palm strike. Boom. Stain was thrown backward. He landed on his feet. Strong. Izuku looked at the cut on his sleeve. You're fast. Stain smiled. You have good instincts. He charged again. Izuku blocked the first slash with his forearm. Clang. The blade bounced away. Stain immediately switched hands. Another slash. Izuku ducked. Another. He stepped backward. Another. He caught the wrist. Stain tried to pull away. Izuku tightened his grip. Got you. Stain kicked him. Boom. Izuku released him and jumped backward. Stain landed. You fight without a weapon. Yes. Why? Because I don't need one. Stain's eyes narrowed. Then prove it. Stain attacked again. This time, Izuku didn't retreat. He stepped forward. Their movements became faster. Slash. Izuku dodged. Punch. Stain blocked. Kick. Stain twisted away. Izuku followed immediately. His fist stopped just before Stain's face. The air pressure alone pushed Stain backward. Boom. Stain crashed into a wall. Crack. He dropped to one knee. Izuku moved toward him. It's over. Stain spat blood onto the ground. Not yet. He threw a knife. Izuku tilted his head. The knife passed by, but Stain had already moved. He slashed toward Izuku's arm. Izuku blocked with his forearm. The blade cut through his costume. Blood appeared. Stain's eyes widened. Blood. Izuku looked at the wound. Just a scratch. Stain's tongue touched the blade. Izuku immediately recognized the danger. Danger sense screamed. So that's your quirk. Stain smiled. Blood curdle. His body suddenly stiffened. Izuku dropped to one knee. Damn. Stain approached. Your blood has stopped your body. Izuku couldn't move. Stain raised his sword. You'll become another corpse. The blade descended. Clang. A metal object struck it away. Tenya Iida rushed into the alley. Midoriya. Izuku's eyes widened. Iida. Stain turned. Another hero. Iida activated his engines. You won't hurt my friend. Stain attacked. Iida dodged. Slash. His costume was cut. Izuku struggled to move. Then another presence entered the alley. Shoto Todoroki. Ice erupted from the ground. Crack. Stain jumped backward. Todoroki. Midoriya. Are you injured? Blood curdle. Todoroki immediately understood. Then we need to stop him quickly. Stain glared at the three students. You've come to defend him. Iida stepped forward. We're here to stop you. Stain smiled. Then die together. Stain charged. Todoroki created a wall of ice. Crack. Stain jumped over it. Iida accelerated. His kick narrowly missed. Stain turned toward him. Izuku's danger sense activated. He saw the opening. Even while paralyzed, he could still use chakra. He concentrated it inside his body. Medical chakra began circulating through his nervous system. Come on. His fingers twitched. Stain raised his sword toward Iida. Izuku forced his muscles to move. Not him. His hand grabbed the ground. Crack. He pulled himself forward. Stain turned. You're still moving. Izuku stood. Green chakra surrounded his body. Medical ninjutsu. The paralysis began fading. Stain's eyes widened. Impossible. Izuku wiped the blood from his arm. My teacher taught me how to control my body. He took a stance. That includes recovering from poison. Stain charged. Izuku waited. At the last moment, he stepped aside. Stain's blade passed him. Izuku grabbed his wrist. Then his elbow. Then his shoulder. 3 movements. Crack. Stain's sword fell. Izuku twisted. Stain was forced to the ground. Thud. Izuku pinned him. It's over. Stain struggled. Release me. No. Stain tried to reach for another blade. Black whip shot from Izuku's arm. It wrapped around Stain's wrist. You've lost. Stain stared at him. You think you're a hero? Izuku looked at him. Yes. Then why don't you kill me? Izuku frowned. Because that's not what heroes do. Stain stared silently. Izuku continued. You attacked people. You hurt heroes. You'll answer for that. Stain's expression remained cold. Your ideals are naive. Maybe. Izuku tightened the black whip. But I'm still not killing you. Todoroki approached. He's restrained. Iida stood several meters away. His expression was tense. Izuku looked at him. Are you okay? Iida looked down. His hands were trembling. Yes. Izuku noticed the anger in his eyes. Iida. He hurt my brother. Izuku understood. I'm sorry. Iida looked toward Stain. I wanted revenge. Izuku remained silent for a moment. Then he said, you stopped yourself. Iida looked at him. That's what matters. Iida clenched his fists. But I almost. You didn't. Izuku placed a hand on his shoulder. You can still choose what happens next. Iida lowered his head. Midoriya. Before he could say more, Stain suddenly moved. His tongue reached toward the blood on his blade. Izuku reacted instantly. Black whip wrapped around his arm. No. He pulled the blade away. Stain struggled. Release me. Absolutely not. Todoroki created an ice barrier around them. Crack. Stain was trapped. Sirens could be heard in the distance. The professional heroes had arrived. Izuku looked at Stain. It's over. Stain stared back. You. Yes. What is your name? Izuku answered. Izuku Midoriya. Stain remained silent. Then he smiled faintly. Midoriya. His eyes narrowed. You may actually become a hero. Izuku blinked. Thanks. Stain looked annoyed. That wasn't a compliment. Oh. Todoroki almost smiled. Iida looked confused. Did he just? Yes. Izuku said. He did. The heroes arrived moments later. Stain was taken into custody. The streets were secured. The injured heroes were treated. Izuku immediately approached Iida. Let me check your arm. Iida hesitated. It's only a cut. Still. Green chakra surrounded Izuku's hand. The wound closed. Iida stared. Your medical ability. It'll heal quickly. Izuku checked his other injuries. There. Iida flexed his arm. The pain is gone. Good. Izuku then looked at Todoroki. You're injured too. It's minor. Let me see. Todoroki sighed. Fine. Izuku healed the small cuts on his arm. Todoroki looked at him. You really do heal everyone. Izuku smiled. It's useful. Later that night, Izuku stood outside the hospital. The city lights reflected across the wet pavement. He opened his notebook. He wrote, Hero Killer. Stain. High-speed swordsmanship. Blood curdle. Dangerous at close range. Then he added, strong conviction, but extreme methods. Izuku closed the notebook. He looked toward Iida. His friend was standing nearby, staring at the hospital. Izuku walked over. You okay? Iida nodded. Yes. Good. Iida looked at him. Midoriya. Yes. Thank you. Izuku smiled. You don't have to thank me. I do. Iida adjusted his glasses. You saved me. Izuku shook his head. We saved each other. Iida smiled. Perhaps. The next morning, news of Stain's defeat spread across the country. The hero killer had been captured. The 3 students involved had survived. But the incident had also revealed something else. Izuku's name was beginning to spread beyond UA. Not because he had destroyed a villain. Because he had defeated one without killing him. And because he had immediately treated the wounded afterward. In another part of the city, a pro-hero watched the news. A white-haired woman with rabbit ears leaned forward. That kid, she grinned. Now that's someone worth fighting. Farther away, a dragon-themed hero watched the same report. Her expression softened. He's powerful. She paused. But his first instinct is still to help. Meanwhile, Izuku returned to his internship. He had another notebook entry to write. And another lesson to learn. The sports festival had shown him how strong he could become. The battle with Stain had shown him how quickly a fight could become personal. He closed his notebook. Next time, I'll be faster. Then he walked back toward the city. The summer training camp began a few weeks after the Hosu incident. The students of Class 1A traveled deep into the forest, far from the city. Izuku looked out the bus window. Trees stretched in every direction. This place is huge. Mina leaned over the seat. Apparently we're going to train here for several days. Izuku nodded. That means we'll probably have a lot of physical exercises. Kyoka sighed. Of course that's what you noticed. Izuku smiled. Training is important. Ochako laughed. You really never stop, do you? Not really. Tsuyu looked at him. That's why you're so strong, Ribbit. Izuku scratched his cheek. Maybe. The bus eventually reached the training grounds. Several pro-heroes were waiting for them. Izuku immediately recognized them. The Wild Pussycats, Mandalay, Pixie Bob, Ragdoll, and Tiger. Beside them stood Bubble Girl, who had arrived to assist with the camp. Pixie Bob stepped forward. Welcome, little kittens. The students stared. You're going to spend the next several days training harder than you've ever trained before. Mina smiled. This is going to be fun. Izuku looked toward the forest. His danger sense remained quiet. For now, the training started immediately. The students were sent into different areas of the forest. Izuku was assigned to a rocky section. A group of training beasts emerged from the trees. Roar! Izuku lowered his stance. All right. The beasts charged. He moved. Boom. One was knocked backward. Another attacked from the side. Izuku ducked. His fist struck the ground. Boom. The shockwave sent the creature tumbling away. He didn't use enough force to seriously injure it. The training continued for several hours. By sunset, most of the students were exhausted. Izuku was still standing. He looked toward the camp. Everyone seems tired. The next morning, Izuku noticed several of the pro-heroes were struggling with their own injuries from training. Pixie Bob had strained her shoulder. Mandalay had several bruises. Ragdoll's leg was sore. Bubble Girl had a small cut on her arm. Izuku approached them. Are you injured? Pixie Bob waved him off. Just a little soreness. Izuku frowned. Still, he held out his hand. Let me treat it. Pixie Bob blinked. You can heal. Yes. She looked at Mandalay. Then at Ragdoll. Well, she smiled. Why not? Izuku placed his hand over her shoulder. Green chakra appeared. Warm energy flowed into the damaged muscles. Pixie Bob's expression changed. Oh, the soreness disappeared. She moved her shoulder. It's gone. Izuku nodded. Good. Mandalay approached next. Can you really heal all of us? Minor injuries are easy. Then I have a bruise here. She pointed toward her arm. Izuku treated it. The discoloration disappeared. Mandalay stared. That's incredible. Ragdoll walked over. My turn. Izuku smiled. All right. Bubble Girl watched from nearby. When Izuku finished treating Ragdoll, she approached. Midoriya. Yes. Can you heal this? She showed him a cut on her arm. Yes. Green chakra surrounded his hand. The cut disappeared. Bubble Girl stared at her skin. Amazing. Izuku smiled. It should be fine now. Thank you. You're welcome. Bubble Girl looked at him for a moment. Then smiled. You're very considerate. Izuku became slightly embarrassed. I'm just helping. Mandalay exchanged a glance with Pixie Bob. Pixie Bob smiled. He really is a good kid. The training continued throughout the day. Students pushed themselves harder. Izuku helped wherever he could. When someone twisted an ankle, he healed it. When someone suffered muscle strain, he treated it. When someone became exhausted, he showed them breathing techniques. Eventually, several students began joking that Izuku had become the camp's unofficial doctor. Dr. Midoriya, Mina called. Izuku turned. Yes, I hurt my leg. Izuku immediately approached. Where? Mina started laughing. I'm kidding. Izuku stopped. Oh, Mina grinned. You really fall for it every time. Izuku sighed. That's not funny. Yes, it is. That evening, Izuku sat near the campfire. The students were relaxing after training. Momo sat nearby. Ochako was talking with Tsuyu. Kyoka was playing music. Mina was telling stories. Izuku looked around. For once, nobody was fighting. He enjoyed the quiet. Then he heard footsteps. Mandalay approached. Mind if I sit here? Izuku moved slightly. Of course. She sat beside him. You've been helping everyone. It's nothing. It isn't. Mandalay looked at him. Most people would be exhausted after all that training. Izuku smiled. I'm used to it. Your teacher must have trained you brutally. Izuku laughed. That's an accurate description. Mandalay smiled. She sounds terrifying. She was. And you still miss her. Izuku touched the necklace beneath his shirt. Yes. Mandalay noticed the movement. That's something she gave you. Izuku nodded. Before she returned home. Home. Another place. Mandalay raised an eyebrow. Another country. Izuku looked toward the fire. Something like that. He wasn't ready to explain everything. Mandalay accepted the answer. Well, wherever she is, she must be proud of you. Izuku smiled. I hope so. The following morning, another training session began. Izuku was sparring with Tiger. The pro hero attacked with overwhelming strength. Izuku blocked. Boom. He slid backward. Tiger grinned. Good. Izuku rushed forward. He ducked beneath a punch. Then tapped Tiger's shoulder. Point. Tiger laughed. You're fast. Izuku smiled. You're strong. Again. They continued. After several exchanges, Tiger landed a clean hit. Boom. Izuku crashed into the ground. The students gasped. Midoriya. Izuku rolled onto his back. Then stood. Blood trickled from his lip. He wiped it away. That was good. Green chakra appeared. The cut disappeared. Tiger stared. You really can heal yourself instantly. Yes. Tiger crossed his arms. That's troublesome. Izuku laughed. Later, Ragdoll approached Izuku. Midoriya. Yes. Can I ask you something? Of course. How do you know where people are when you fight? Izuku thought for a moment. Danger sense helps. Danger sense. It's an ability that warns me when someone intends to hurt me. Ragdoll's eyes widened. That's extremely useful. It is. What about searching for people? Izuku's expression changed slightly. I can sense people using chakra, but it isn't perfect. Ragdoll smiled. That's still amazing. Izuku opened his notebook. Your search ability is actually more precise. Ragdoll laughed. You've already analyzed me. Yes. You really are a notebook nerd. Izuku smiled. Probably. That night, something changed. Izuku was standing outside his cabin when danger sense activated. He immediately turned toward the forest. Nothing was visible, but something was there. Someone's coming. His hand moved toward his forehead. The Byakugo mark appeared. Black lines spread across his skin. Then a voice echoed through the trees. Midoriya. Izuku's eyes narrowed. It wasn't a student. The voice sounded unfamiliar. He stepped forward. Who's there? Silence. Then something moved between the trees. Izuku immediately prepared himself. But before he could act, a scream came from deeper inside the forest. Help! Izuku recognized the voice. One of his classmates. His expression hardened. Stay here. He launched himself forward. Whom? Izuku moved through the trees at high speed. Branches passed around him. Danger sense kept warning him. Then he saw several students fighting. Villains had invaded the training camp. Izuku landed between them. Boom. The ground cracked. Everyone behind me. The villains turned. One of them laughed. Another hero student. Izuku clenched his fists. Green chakra surrounded his body. You picked the wrong camp. A villain charged. Izuku disappeared. Whom? The fight began. And somewhere deeper in the forest, another villain was already searching for him. This time, Izuku's medical skills wouldn't be enough. Because the people attacking his classmates weren't interested in winning a training exercise. They had come to take someone away. The forest had become a battlefield. Izuku stood between the villains and several students. Green chakra surrounded his body. His Byakugo mark glowed faintly on his forehead. Stay behind me. One of the villains laughed. You think you can stop all of us? Izuku looked around. There were several enemies. Some were already fighting the other students. Others were moving deeper into the forest. His danger sense kept warning him from different directions. They're trying to split us apart. A villain charged. Izuku moved. Boom. His fist struck the villain's chest. The man flew backward and crashed through several trees. Izuku immediately turned toward another attacker. Black whip shot from his arm. It wrapped around the villain's wrist. Stop. Izuku pulled. The villain slammed into the ground. Thud. Another attacker appeared behind him. Izuku turned just in time. Crack. A blade grazed his shoulder. Blood ran down his costume. Izuku stepped backward. The attacker smiled. Got you. Izuku touched the wound. It's nothing. Green chakra spread across his shoulder. The cut closed. The villain's smile disappeared. What? Izuku raised his eyes. You'll need more than that. The fight continued. Izuku moved through the forest, helping his classmates whenever he found them. One villain attacked with fire. Izuku avoided the flames and knocked him unconscious. Another attempted to trap him with vines. Izuku broke free. A third tried to attack a student from behind. Black Whip intercepted the attack. Not happening. Boom. The villain crashed into a tree. Izuku looked toward the student. Are you okay? The student nodded. Yes. Then keep moving. He turned toward the deeper forest. Something felt wrong. Danger sense wouldn't stop. Someone was approaching. Fast. Deep inside the forest, a girl walked between the trees. She wore a school uniform. Blonde hair framed her face. Her eyes were bright. She carried a knife. Himiko Toga. She had been searching for a particular student. Then she saw him. Izuku. His green hair. His damaged hero costume. Blood from a shallow cut on his arm. Toga's eyes widened. Him. She smiled. There you are. She moved closer. Izuku suddenly turned. Danger sense activated. He stared into the darkness. Someone's there. Toga stepped out from behind a tree. Hi. Izuku lowered his stance. You're a villain. Yep. She smiled. And you're Izuku Midoriya. Izuku frowned. How do you know my name? Everyone knows you now. Toga tilted her head. The strong hero student who can heal people. Izuku didn't answer. Toga looked at the blood on his arm. Her eyes became strangely focused. You're bleeding. Izuku looked down. It's already healing. Toga took a step forward. Can I have some? Izuku's expression hardened. No. Toga giggled. That's okay. She suddenly lunged. Slash. Izuku moved backward. The knife passed his chest. He grabbed her wrist. Toga twisted her body and kicked him. Izuku blocked. Boom. She landed several meters away. You're fast. Izuku stared. You're unpredictable. Toga smiled. Thank you. Toga attacked again. Her knife moved quickly. Izuku dodged each strike. Slash. 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 He stepped backward through the trees. Toga followed. Why won't you hit me? Because you're a student. Toga blinked. Then laughed. I'm not a student. Izuku realized his mistake. Danger sense screamed. Toga changed direction. She threw the knife. Izuku tilted his head. The blade passed beside him. Then she appeared behind him. Surprise. Izuku turned. Her knife cut his side. Slash. Blood appeared. Izuku stepped away. Toga stared at the wound. Your blood. Her expression became excited. Izuku immediately covered it. Green chakra flowed through his body. The injury closed. Toga's eyes widened. You healed it. Yes. That fast. Yes. Toga smiled. That's amazing. Izuku frowned. Why are you smiling? Because you're interesting. Toga charged again. This time, Izuku didn't retreat. He stepped forward. His palm struck her wrist. The knife flew away. Toga attempted to kick him. Izuku caught her leg. Then he swept her other leg. Thud. She landed on her back. Izuku immediately restrained her without hurting her. Stay down. Toga stared up at him. Instead of fear, she smiled. You're really strong. Izuku looked at her. You don't have to keep fighting. But I want to. Why? Toga hesitated. Then her smile faded slightly. Because. She looked away. I like blood. Izuku remained silent. When people bleed, I want to become like them. Izuku released some of the pressure on her. Toga looked surprised. You're not going to hurt me. No, even though I'm a villain. Yes. Toga stared at him. Why? Izuku stood. Because you're injured. He extended his hand. Let me treat you. Toga stared at his hand. You'd heal me. Yes. Even after I attacked you. Yes. Toga slowly took his hand. Izuku pulled her upright. Toga had several small wounds from the fight. Izuku noticed them immediately. You have cuts on your arms. So, they need treatment. He placed his hand near her forearm. Green chakra appeared. Toga froze. Warmth spread through her body. The wounds disappeared. She stared at her skin. Gone. Izuku nodded. Yes. Toga touched the healed area. Then she looked at Izuku. Her cheeks became slightly pink. You're weird. Izuku smiled. I hear that a lot. Toga giggled. I like weird. Izuku paused. What? Nothing. She stepped closer. You're really kind. I'm just doing my job. No. Toga shook her head. Heroes usually look at me like I'm a monster. Izuku looked directly at her. I don't know you well enough to call you a monster. Toga's smile slowly returned. Then get to know me. Izuku blinked. What? Before he could continue, an explosion echoed through the forest. Boom. Toga looked toward the sound. Oh. Izuku turned. My classmates. He immediately started moving. Toga followed. Where are you going? To help them. Can I come? Izuku stopped. You're a villain. I know. Then no. Toga pouted. Mean. Izuku sighed. Stay here. Okay. He ran. Toga watched him disappear. She touched her healed arm. Then smiled. I think I like him. Izuku reached the battlefield several minutes later. Several students were fighting a group of villains. The situation was getting worse. Everyone. Izuku landed. Boom. The ground cracked beneath him. Midoriya. He immediately entered the fight. One villain attacked. Izuku blocked. Boom. Another. Black whip. Thud. Another. Punch. Boom. The villains began retreating. Fall back. Izuku chased them for several meters. Then stopped. Something was wrong. He looked toward the forest. Where's Byakugo? Nobody answered. Izuku's expression changed. Danger sense activated violently. They're taking someone. Far away. Toga stood alone among the trees. She watched the villains retreat. Then she looked at the direction Izuku had gone. Her smile returned. I'll see you again, Izuku. She picked up her knife. Definitely. Izuku reached the clearing too late. Byakugo was gone. Only broken branches remained. Izuku clenched his fists. Damn it. Kendo arrived behind him. Midoriya. Izuku looked toward the forest. They took him. His danger sense continued ringing. He could feel the threat moving farther away. We have to find him. Kendo nodded. But we don't know where they went. Izuku looked at the ground. Then at the trees. His eyes narrowed. I can track them. How? Chakra. He closed his eyes. His senses expanded. Footsteps. Voices. Faint traces of movement. Then he detected something. There. Izuku opened his eyes. They're heading toward the northern section. Kendo stared. You can really do that? Yes. Izuku immediately ran. We're getting him back. The forest grew darker. The villains were disappearing into the distance. Izuku followed their trail. His fists were clenched. He had already failed to protect someone once. He wasn't going to let it happen again. Behind him, Kendo and several other students followed. And somewhere in the forest, Toga watched them from a distance. She touched the place on her arm where Izuku's chakra had healed her. Her cheeks were still pink. He saved me. She smiled. So I'll save him someday too. The forest fell silent. Then, far in the distance. Boom. Izuku looked toward the sound. That's where they are. He accelerated. The rescue had begun. The abandoned building stood beneath the night sky. Izuku watched it from a nearby rooftop. Several villains were guarding the entrance. Byakugo was somewhere inside. The rescue team had gathered a short distance away. Izuku crouched near the edge of the building. There are at least 20. Kirishima looked at him. You can sense them. Izuku nodded. And there are more underground. Momo adjusted her equipment. Then we need to be careful. Izuku looked toward the building. I'll go in first. Iida immediately objected. Midoriya, this is dangerous. I know. Then you shouldn't go alone. Izuku looked at him. I won't. He pointed toward Kirishima and Momo. They'll follow me. Kirishima grinned. Count me in. Momo nodded. Understood. Izuku jumped from the rooftop. He landed on a narrow ledge without making a sound. Black whip extended from his arm. It wrapped around a pipe. He swung around the side of the building. 2 guards were standing below. Izuku dropped behind them. Thud. Both collapsed before they could react. Kirishima landed beside him. That was fast. Izuku nodded. We don't have time. Momo arrived next. She looked toward the entrance. What's our plan? Izuku opened his notebook. We don't fight everyone. He pointed toward the building. We find Byakugo first. Momo nodded. And if we're discovered, Izuku's expression hardened. Then we move. The 3 entered the building. The interior was dark. Izuku activated danger sense. Nothing. He continued forward. Momo created a small light. Kirishima whispered. This place is creepy. Izuku stopped. Wait. He pointed toward a corridor. 3 people. Kirishima prepared himself. Izuku raised one finger. Don't attack unless they do. The group approached. 3 villains appeared. Who's there? Izuku moved. Boom. His palm struck the first villain. Kirishima hardened his body and blocked another attack. Momo created restraints. Within seconds, all 3 villains were incapacitated. Keep moving. Deeper inside the building, Izuku detected something. A familiar presence. He stopped. Bakugo. Kirishima looked at him. Where? Below us. Momo created a device. There's a basement. Izuku looked at the floor. Then we go down. He concentrated chakra into his fist. 1 hit. Boom. The floor cracked. Another strike. Boom. The concrete collapsed. The 3 dropped into the room below. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, Izuku saw him. Bakugo was restrained against a chair. His arms were bound. His expression was furious. You idiots. Izuku immediately ran toward him. Bakugo. What took you so long? Damn nerd. Izuku broke the restraints. Crack. Are you injured? I'm fine. Izuku checked him anyway. You're not seriously hurt. Bakugo pulled his arm away. I said I'm fine. Izuku nodded. Good. Then danger sense exploded. Everyone move. Boom. The wall behind them exploded. Izuku grabbed Bakugo and moved. Black Whip caught Momo and Kirishima. The 4 were pulled away from the blast. A group of villains entered the room. One of them smiled. You actually came for him. Izuku placed Bakugo behind him. Stay there. Bakugo frowned. Don't order me around. Then stay alive. Bakugo gritted his teeth. Damn it. The villains attacked. Izuku moved first. Whom? He struck the ground. The shockwave knocked several villains off their feet. Kirishima charged. Hardening. Boom. He slammed into another enemy. Momo created restraints and captured 2 more. Izuku moved through the room. Punch. Boom. Kick. Thud. Elbow. Boom. He didn't waste movement. Every strike targeted a joint or pressure point. Within seconds, the room was filled with unconscious villains. Bakugo stared. You're still holding back. Izuku looked at him. Yes. Why? Because we're indoors. Bakugo clicked his tongue. You're annoying. Then the lights went out. Izuku froze. Danger sense screamed. Something's coming. A voice echoed through the darkness. You've caused quite a disturbance. Izuku's eyes narrowed. A man stepped forward. All for one. Izuku immediately recognized the danger. His body reacted before his mind could process it. Chakra flooded through every muscle. The Byakugo mark spread across his forehead. Green energy surrounded him. Bakugo stared. Who the hell is that? Izuku didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the masked man. You're all for one. The villain smiled. So you know me. Everyone does. Interesting. All for one raised his hand. Your power is unusual. Izuku took a stance. I'm not letting you hurt anyone. All for one chuckled. Such confidence. The attack came instantly. Air cannon. Boom. Izuku crossed his arms. The force threw him through a wall. Crack. He crashed into another room. Midoriya. Bakugo shouted. Izuku stood. Blood ran from his forehead. Green chakra immediately closed the wound. I'm fine. All for one walked through the destroyed wall. Regeneration. Izuku stared. You can heal too. Among many other abilities. All for one raised his hand. Multiple quirks activated. A blast of air. A piercing attack. A shockwave. Izuku dodged the first. Blocked the second. The third struck his side. Boom. He crashed into the floor. The Byakugo mark spread further. Chakra surged. Izuku stood again. That all. All for one paused. You survived. Izuku rushed forward. Whom? His fist struck. All for one blocked. Boom. The entire room shook. All for one's feet slid backward. Impressive. Izuku attacked again. Punch. Boom. Elbow. Boom. Knee. Thud. All for One blocked each strike. Then he released a concentrated blast. Izuku crossed his arms. Boom. The blast pushed him backward. His feet carved trenches into the concrete. Izuku breathed heavily. He's strong. Inside his mind, he remembered Tsunade. Don't rely on brute strength alone. Izuku lowered his stance. Then I'll use everything I've learned. Chakra erupted from his body. The Byakugo seal opened. Green energy spread across his skin. All for One raised his hand. Another transformation. Izuku vanished. He appeared beside All for One. A precise strike hit his ribs. Boom. All for One was thrown through the wall. Izuku followed. Black Whip wrapped around a nearby building. He swung forward. Smash. His fist connected. Boom. The shockwave tore through the street. All for One crashed into the pavement. Izuku landed. Dust surrounded him. He looked toward the crater. All for One slowly stood. His mask was damaged. Izuku clenched his fist. Give up. All for One laughed. No. Multiple quirks activated around his body. Izuku's danger sense screamed. Everyone, get back. A massive attack formed. Bakugo looked at him. Midoriya. Izuku stepped forward. I'll stop it. Are you insane? Maybe. Izuku lowered his stance. But I'm not letting it reach you. All for One released the attack. Boom. Izuku punched forward. The collision shook the entire street. Crack. Windows shattered. Cars were pushed backward. The air itself seemed to explode. Izuku's feet slid backward. His arms trembled. Blood appeared across his skin. The Byakugo regenerated his wounds. He pushed harder. Move. Boom. The attack split apart. The remaining force shot upward. Izuku remained standing. All for One stared. What are you? Izuku looked at him. I'm a hero. Sirens filled the streets. More heroes were approaching. All for One looked around. He knew the battle couldn't continue. He raised his hand. Kurogiri's portal appeared. Izuku immediately moved. Black Whip shot toward him. But All for One stepped backward. Another time. Wait. The portal swallowed him. He disappeared. Izuku stood in the middle of the ruined street. His breathing was heavy. Bakugo walked toward him. You idiot. Izuku looked at him. What? You could have died. Izuku smiled. But I didn't. Bakugo clenched his fists. Then looked away. Next time, let me fight too. Izuku nodded. All right. The other heroes arrived shortly afterward. The battle was over. All for One had escaped. But his appearance had changed everything. Izuku looked at the damaged city. He knew the villain would return. And next time, he would be ready. He touched the necklace beneath his costume. Tsunade Sensei. His expression became determined. I'll keep getting stronger. Above the city, the emergency lights illuminated the ruined streets. The Battle of Kamino had begun. And Izuku Midoriya had just entered the fight against the strongest villain in the country. The streets of Kamino had become almost unrecognizable. Buildings were damaged. Roads were cracked. Smoke rose from several collapsed structures while emergency crews moved civilians away from the battlefield. Izuku stood in the middle of the ruined street. His breathing was steady, but his body was covered with scratches. The Byakugo seal remained active on his forehead. Green chakra flowed across his arms. All for One was gone. But Izuku knew the fight wasn't over. He looked toward the direction where the villain had disappeared. He'll come back. Bakugo stood nearby. Then we'll beat him when he does. Izuku glanced at him. You should let the pros handle him. Shut up. Bakugo clenched his fists. I'm not sitting around while that bastard destroys everything. Izuku was about to answer when a massive shockwave suddenly shook the street. Boom. Both students turned. Izuku's danger sense activated. Everyone, move. A huge figure appeared through the smoke. All for One. The villain had returned. Izuku's eyes widened. How? All for One slowly raised one hand. Did you really think that was enough to stop me? Izuku stepped forward. You should have stayed away. All for One smiled. Your confidence is impressive. Several quirks activated around his body. Izuku immediately recognized the danger. Byakugo, get behind the heroes. No, Byakugo. I said no. Izuku sighed. Fine. Just don't get in front of me. Byakugo grinned. That's more like it. All for One attacked. A concentrated blast of air tore through the street. Izuku jumped. The attack destroyed the building behind him. Crack. Izuku landed on a broken wall. Another attack followed. This time, dozens of black tendrils shot toward him. Izuku activated Black Whip. His own tendrils collided with them. Crack. The two powers struggled. Multiple quirks, Izuku muttered. All for One pulled harder. Izuku was dragged forward. He released Black Whip and flipped through the air. A shockwave passed beneath him. Boom. He landed. He's combining them perfectly. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Then I'll have to overwhelm him. Izuku rushed forward. Chakra exploded from his legs. He crossed the distance instantly. His fist struck All for One's chest. Boom. The villain was pushed backward. Izuku followed. Another punch. Boom. A knee. Thud. An elbow. Boom. All for One blocked each strike. Then a massive fist formed from several quirks and slammed into Izuku. Boom. Izuku flew backward. He crashed through a concrete wall. Crack. Dust covered him. Byakugo shouted. Midoriya. The dust moved. Izuku stood. His costume was torn. Blood ran down his cheek. Then the Byakugo regenerated the injury. Green chakra spread across his face. All for One watched carefully. That healing ability is extraordinary. Izuku wiped the blood away. You've seen it already. Yes. All for One raised his hand. But I haven't seen its limit. A barrage of attacks erupted. Izuku's danger sense screamed. He moved. One attack. Dodge. Another. Block. Another. Jump. Another. Black Whip. He redirected one projectile into another. Boom. Two attacks collided in midair. But more followed. Izuku couldn't dodge everything. One struck his shoulder. Boom. Another hit his leg. Crack. A third slammed into his ribs. Izuku crashed into the ground. His body immediately began healing. He stood. All for One smiled. Interesting. Izuku narrowed his eyes. You want to know my limit? He touched the Byakugo seal. Then watch. The seal opened further. Chakra erupted across the battlefield. Green energy covered Izuku's body. The ground beneath his feet cracked. Crack. All for One became more cautious. That amount of energy. Izuku disappeared. All for One barely raised his arm before Izuku's fist struck. Boom. The villain was sent flying. Izuku followed. Black Whip wrapped around his arm. He pulled All for One back. Then delivered another punch. Boom. All for One crashed into the ground. Izuku landed above him. It's over. All for One laughed. Not yet. A powerful shockwave erupted from his body. Boom. Izuku was thrown backward. All for One stood. His body was damaged. But he continued moving. You possess remarkable physical power. Izuku stared at him. And you have too many quirks. Indeed. All for One raised both hands. Let's see how you handle this. Several quirks activated simultaneously. Air pressure increased. Flames appeared. Black tendrils spread across the ground. Large spikes emerged from the pavement. And a powerful force began pulling objects toward All for One. Izuku's danger sense screamed continuously. This is bad. He looked toward the nearby heroes. Everyone evacuate. The heroes moved. Izuku remained alone in front of All for One. Byakugo looked at him. What are you doing? Buying time. You're crazy. Probably. Izuku lowered his stance. Chakra gathered into his fists. But it works. All for One unleashed everything. Boom. The street disappeared beneath the attack. Izuku charged directly into it. Whom? The first wave struck him. His skin tore. Medical chakra immediately repaired it. Another attack hit his chest. Boom. His ribs cracked. The Byakugo regenerated them. Another blast struck his back. Izuku stumbled, then continued forward. Come on. All for One stared. You continue to regenerate. Izuku clenched his fist. That's what she taught me. He remembered Tsunade's training. 10 years. Countless injuries. Thousands of repetitions. Every failure had been followed by another attempt. Izuku pushed forward. I won't stop. All for One fired another massive blast. Izuku raised both arms. Chakra concentrated around his body. The impact struck. Boom. The ground beneath him collapsed. Izuku's knees bent. His arms trembled. Blood appeared, then vanished. He pushed forward. One step. Another. Another. Finally, he broke through the attack. Whom? Izuku appeared directly in front of All for One. The villain's eyes widened. Impossible. Izuku's fist was already moving. Smash. Boom. The punch struck All for One's guard. The force sent him flying across the street. He crashed through several walls. Crack. Crack. Boom. Izuku landed. He breathed heavily. His chakra continued circulating. All for One slowly stood. His mask was cracked. You are far more troublesome than I expected. Izuku raised his fists. You still have a chance to surrender. All for One laughed. Surrender. He raised his hand. Never. Another attack formed. But before he could release it, several pro-heroes arrived. Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Kamui Woods, and other heroes surrounded the battlefield. Endeavor's flames rose. All for One. Izuku glanced at them. He's heavily injured. Best Jeanist looked at Izuku. And you? I'm fine. Endeavor stared at the glowing mark on Izuku's forehead. You call that fine? Izuku looked at his damaged costume. The injuries are already healing. Best Jeanist raised an eyebrow. Remarkable. All for One looked around. He understood the situation. The number of heroes had increased. Continuing the fight would be inefficient. He turned toward the remaining portal. Izuku immediately moved. Black Whip shot forward. You're not escaping. All for One blocked it. Another time. Young hero. The portal opened. Izuku increased his speed. Whom? But All for One disappeared. Silence returned. Izuku stood with his Black Whip extended. Damn. The heroes secured the area. Medical teams arrived. Izuku immediately began helping the injured. A hero had suffered a broken arm. Izuku treated it. Another had several deep cuts. He healed them. A civilian was unconscious. Izuku checked their condition. They're stable. The medical team stared at him. You can treat civilians too. Yes. Green chakra flowed through his hands. The civilians slowly opened their eyes. Where? You're safe. Izuku smiled. The heroes have secured the area. The civilian looked at him. Thank you. Izuku nodded. You're welcome. Later, Izuku stood beside Byakugo. The younger hero was unusually quiet. You really took all of that head on. Izuku nodded. Someone had to. You could have died. I know. Byakugo looked at him. Then why? Izuku answered immediately. Because everyone behind me would have been hurt. Byakugo remained silent. Then he looked away. Idiot. Izuku smiled. You've said that before. The Battle of Kamino eventually ended. All for One had escaped. But he had been injured. And the heroes had learned something important. Izuku Midoriya was not simply a powerful student. He possessed a fighting style unlike anything they had seen. His chakra gave him monstrous strength. His medical ninjutsu allowed him to continue fighting through injuries that would stop almost anyone else. And his Byakugo seal gave him an enormous reserve of energy. Yet Izuku knew there was still a gap between himself and All for One. He opened his notebook. Under all for one, he wrote. Multiple quirks. Extremely high combat adaptability. Long-range attacks. Dangerous close-range strength. Experienced fighter. He paused. Then added. Do not underestimate him. Izuku closed the notebook. The wind moved through the ruined streets. He touched the necklace beneath his costume. I'll get stronger. His expression became firm. Next time, I won't let him escape. Far away, inside a hidden facility, All for One sat in darkness. His body was being treated by his followers. He remembered the green-haired boy. The chakra, the seal, the regeneration, the monstrous punches. For the first time in a long while, he had encountered a power he couldn't immediately classify. Izuku Midoriya. His fingers moved slightly. How interesting. And somewhere in the distance, the first signs of a new era were already beginning. The city had finally begun to recover from the Battle of Kamino. Weeks had passed since All for One was defeated and taken into custody. The streets were being rebuilt. Damaged buildings were being repaired. The public was slowly returning to normal. But for Izuku, training had only become more intense. Every morning, he woke before sunrise. Every evening, he continued practicing chakra control. The battle against All for One had shown him something important. His strength was enormous. His regeneration was extraordinary. But relying entirely on those abilities would eventually create an opening for someone stronger or more experienced. So he trained. Again. And again. One morning, Izuku stood alone in an abandoned training field. Several enormous boulders surrounded him. He had already destroyed dozens. His clothes were covered in dust. He took a deep breath. Chakra concentration. He raised his fist. The chakra surrounding his hand became smaller, denser, more precise. Then he punched. Boom. The boulder shattered, not into several large pieces, into hundreds of fragments. Izuku stared at his fist. Better. He turned toward the next boulder. Again. Boom. Another shattered. Then another. Boom. Boom. The sound echoed across the empty field. Izuku continued until only pieces of stone remained. A few hours later, Aizawa arrived. He looked across the destroyed training field. You did all this? Izuku nodded. Yes. Aizawa sighed. You realize we have to rebuild this area now. Izuku scratched his cheek. I'll help. You'd better. Aizawa looked at the Byakugo mark on Izuku's forehead. How much chakra are you storing now? More than before. How much? Izuku thought for a moment. Enough. Aizawa stared at him. That's not an answer. Izuku smiled. I'm still learning the exact limit. Aizawa looked toward the destroyed boulders. Whatever you're doing, don't let your confidence turn into carelessness. Izuku nodded. I won't. Later that day, Izuku received an unexpected message. A new training exercise had been arranged. Several pro heroes wanted to observe his abilities. Among them were Mirko, Yukio, and Midnight. Izuku arrived at the training facility. Mirko was already waiting. She grinned when she saw him. There he is. Izuku bowed politely. Hello. Mirko stretched her legs. I've been wanting to see what you can really do. Yukio stood nearby. Please don't push him too hard. Mirko laughed. That's the whole point of training. Midnight smiled. And he has medical ninjutsu if something goes wrong. Izuku sighed. Please don't encourage her. Mirko laughed again. I like this kid. The exercise began. Mirko charged first. Whom? Izuku barely dodged her kick. The ground exploded behind him. Boom. Izuku turned. That was close. Mirko grinned. You were supposed to block it. She attacked again. Izuku crossed his arms. Boom. The impact pushed him backward. He slid across the ground. Mirko followed. Izuku suddenly disappeared. Whom? He appeared behind her. Got you. His palm stopped before her back. Mirko turned. Not bad. She kicked. Izuku blocked. The two exchanged several attacks. Boom. Crack. Thud. Their movements became faster. Yukio watched carefully. His precision is incredible. Midnight nodded. He's controlling his strength constantly. Izuku finally stepped away. Can we stop? Mirko grinned. Already tired? No. Then why stop? Because I don't want to destroy the facility. Mirko laughed. Fair. After the exercise, Izuku sat down. Mirko stood in front of him. You still haven't shown your strongest attack. Izuku looked up. I don't use it casually. Why? Because it's dangerous. Mirko's eyes became interested. How dangerous? Izuku looked toward the distant mountains. Enough to destroy a large area. Mirko's grin widened. Now I really want to see it. Yukio immediately interrupted. Not here. Mirko sighed. Fine. Izuku smiled. Maybe during a controlled exercise. Several days later, the opportunity came. A large training zone outside the city was selected. Reinforced barriers surrounded the area. Multiple pro heroes were present. Aizawa stood near the observation platform. Remember, Midoriya. Izuku nodded. Controlled output. Exactly. Izuku walked into the center of the training zone. A massive artificial structure stood before him. It was designed to withstand extreme attacks. Mirko crossed her arms. Show us. Izuku took a deep breath. He touched the Byakugo seal. Release. Crack. The mark spread across his forehead. Then chakra erupted from his body. The air pressure changed. Dust rose from the ground. The nearby trees shook. Everyone watching became silent. Izuku's body was surrounded by green chakra. He clenched his fist. This is the highest level of chakra concentration I've developed. Aizawa watched carefully. Don't exceed the limit. I won't. Izuku stepped forward. The artificial structure towered over him. He raised his fist. Okasho. He punched. Boom. The impact was enormous. The structure didn't simply break. It collapsed inward. A massive shockwave spread across the training ground. Crack. The ground beneath Izuku shattered. Rocks flew through the air. Dust covered the entire area. Then silence. The smoke slowly cleared. The artificial structure was gone. Only a massive crater remained. Izuku stood at the center. His fist was lowered. His breathing was heavy. Mirko stared. That's... She grinned. Insane. The pro heroes rushed toward him. Yukio looked around the destroyed training field. The entire structure was designed to withstand high-level attacks. Aizawa stared at the crater. And you destroyed it with one punch. Izuku looked embarrassed. I controlled the output. Aizawa looked at the crater again. That was controlled. Izuku nodded. Yes. Midnight laughed softly. I'm beginning to understand why you were so confident during the sports festival. Izuku smiled. I still have a lot to learn. Mirko walked over. You're telling me that wasn't your absolute maximum? Izuku shook his head. No. Mirko stared. Then I definitely want a rematch. That evening, Izuku returned to the dormitory. His body was exhausted. He sat on his bed and opened his notebook. He wrote, Okasho, maximum chakra concentration, extreme physical impact, high environmental damage, not suitable for urban combat. He paused, then added another note, use only when necessary. He closed the notebook. A knock came from the door. Izuku opened it. Ochako stood outside. Midoriya. Yes. Are you okay? Just tired. She looked at his hands. You really pushed yourself again. Izuku smiled. It's training. You always say that. She laughed softly. You should rest sometimes. Izuku nodded. I will. Ochako smiled. Good. She turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and, Izuku looked at her. You were amazing today. Izuku smiled. Thanks. She waved and left. The next morning, an unexpected emergency interrupted training. A group of villains had attacked a nearby district. The police had already evacuated most civilians. But several people were trapped inside a damaged building. Izuku immediately volunteered. "I'll go." Aizawa looked at him. "Don't use excessive force." "Understood." Izuku arrived at the scene. The building was partially collapsed. Several civilians were trapped underneath the debris. He immediately activated his medical chakra. "Anyone injured?" A faint voice answered. "Help." Izuku's expression hardened. He crouched beside the rubble. Black whip emerged from his arms. It carefully moved between the broken concrete. He lifted one section, then another. "Stay calm." A child was trapped underneath. Izuku carefully pulled the debris away. "You're safe now." The child looked at him. "Hero." Izuku smiled. "Yes." He carried the child outside. Then returned. Again. And again. He rescued every civilian. One woman had suffered a severe injury to her leg. Izuku immediately treated it. Green chakra surrounded his hand. The wound closed. The woman stared. "It's gone. You'll be fine." After the rescue, Izuku stood outside the building. The pro-heroes had arrived. Mirko looked toward the rescued civilians. "You didn't even use that monster punch." Izuku shook his head. "There was no need." Yukio smiled. "That's exactly why your strength is valuable." Izuku looked at the damaged building. Power isn't always about destroying something. Aizawa glanced at him. "Now that's an answer I can accept." That night, Izuku returned to his room. He sat at his desk. His notebook remained open. He looked at the entry about Okusho. Then he added one more line. "The strongest attack isn't always the best attack." He closed the notebook. Outside, the city lights shone through his window. Izuku touched the necklace given to him by Tsunade. "I'm getting closer." He smiled faintly. "But I'm still not finished." Far away, behind layers of reinforced walls, All for One remained imprisoned. The villain had heard reports about the training exercise. One punch. One enormous crater. A technique capable of destroying anything caught in its path. All for One remained silent. Then he smiled beneath his restraints. "So the boy is still growing." His fingers moved slightly. Interesting. Izuku had reached a new level of strength. But he had yet to realize that his greatest challenge would not come from another villain. It would come from deciding exactly how much of that strength he should use when the lives of innocent people were on the line. The days following the Camino incident were unusually quiet. All for One had been defeated. The symbol of peace had retired. And the hero world was trying to understand what would come next. For Izuku, however, nothing had changed. He still trained every morning. He still attended classes. And whenever someone was injured, he still helped. His medical ninjutsu had become one of his most valuable abilities at UA. Even Recovery Girl had started asking him questions about chakra control. "Your healing technique is completely different from my quirk," she said one afternoon. Izuku nodded. "It's based on chakra and precise control. And you can use it without exhausting yourself. Minor injuries don't require much." Recovery Girl looked toward him. "You've developed something remarkable, young man." Izuku smiled. "My teacher would probably say I still have a lot to learn." "She sounds like a demanding woman." Izuku laughed. She was. One afternoon, Izuku received an invitation from the Hero Commission. He entered the building and found several officials waiting. A large screen displayed images of the Camino incident. One showed Izuku standing against All for One. Another showed him healing injured civilians. The final image showed him rescuing people from a collapsed building. An official spoke. "Midoriya Izuku, we've been monitoring your activities since the sports festival." Izuku sat quietly. "Yes, your combat ability is exceptional." Another official continued. "But your medical ability has attracted even greater attention." Izuku looked at the screen. "Because I can heal people." "Because you can heal people in the middle of combat." The official changed the image. It showed Izuku treating an injured hero. Traditional medical teams require time and equipment. You can stabilize an injured person within seconds. Izuku nodded. That's why I learned medical ninjutsu. Where did you learn it? Izuku paused. He couldn't explain the entire story. From my teacher. The official stared at him. The same teacher who taught you your fighting style. Yes. Where is she now? Izuku looked down briefly. She returned home. Where? Somewhere far away. The official didn't press further. Instead, another document was placed on the table. We would like to classify you as a specialist. Izuku looked at the document. Specialist. Frontline combatant and emergency medical hero. Izuku considered it, all except. Several days later, Izuku returned to the training grounds. Aizawa was waiting. You've received the commission's proposal. Yes. You accepted. Yes. Aizawa nodded. Good. Izuku looked at him. There's something else. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. What? I want to improve my rescue techniques. Aizawa stared. After everything you've accomplished, that's what you're worried about. Yes. Izuku opened his notebook. My strength is already high enough to defeat most opponents. He pointed toward several notes. But if I'm fighting in a city, my attacks could endanger civilians. Aizawa nodded. That's a legitimate concern. So I want to develop techniques that use less destructive force. Aizawa smiled faintly. Now you're thinking like a hero. The following weeks became a new training period. Izuku practiced moving through buildings without damaging them. He practiced using Black Whip to extract people from collapsed structures. He practiced carrying injured civilians while maintaining chakra control. He even developed a new technique. Chakra threads. Instead of using brute force, he could channel small amounts of chakra through his fingers and use them to stabilize damaged bones and muscles. Recovery Girl was impressed. You're becoming a mobile emergency unit. Izuku smiled. That's the idea. One evening, Izuku received a letter. He recognized the handwriting immediately. His hands trembled slightly. He opened it. The message was short. You've grown. Don't become arrogant. Keep your chakra under control. And remember that strength means nothing if you can't protect the people around you. Tsunade. Izuku smiled. He read it twice. Then a third time. He carefully placed the letter inside his notebook. Thank you, Sensei. The next morning, U.A. held a special training exercise. Class 1A and several other students participated. The exercise simulated a large-scale disaster. Buildings were collapsing. Training robots were attacking. Injured civilians were scattered throughout the area. The students were divided into rescue teams. Izuku looked over the field. This is different. Momo nodded. There are too many targets. Exactly. Izuku activated Danger Sense. His eyes moved across the battlefield. There are people trapped in the northern building. Suyu looked surprised. You can sense them. Yes. Then let's go. Izuku moved first. Black Whip extended across the street. He pulled himself toward the damaged building. Momo followed. They entered through a broken window. Inside, several training dummies represented injured civilians. One was trapped under a large concrete slab. Izuku approached. He placed one hand against the slab. Normally, he could simply destroy it. But that would cause the ceiling to collapse. Instead, he concentrated chakra into his fingers. Careful, he slowly lifted the slab. Momo stabilized the surrounding structure. I've got it. Izuku pulled the dummy free. One rescued. They continued. Another floor. Another victim. Another rescue. Within minutes, the entire building had been evacuated. Outside, the exercise continued. A massive training robot appeared. Several students prepared to attack. Izuku stopped them. Don't destroy it. They looked confused. Why? There are civilians behind it. He ran forward. The robot fired. Boom. Izuku dodged. He jumped onto its arm. Black Whip wrapped around its joints. He pulled. The arm stopped moving. Then he struck the robot's leg with a precise chakra-enhanced blow. Crack. The joint broke. The robot collapsed sideways. Izuku redirected its fall with Black Whip. Thud. It landed safely. The civilians behind it were untouched. The students stared. He disabled it without destroying it. Momo smiled. That's incredible control. The exercise ended. Aizawa looked over the results. Midoriya. Izuku turned. Yes. You scored highest. Izuku smiled. Really? Yes. Aizawa continued. Not because you defeated the most enemies. Izuku listened. You rescued the most civilians. Izuku's smile became wider. That's good. Aizawa nodded. That's the point. After the exercise, several students gathered around Izuku. Ochako smiled. You were amazing. Tsuyu nodded. You barely damaged anything. Momo added. Your chakra control has improved considerably. Mina grinned. You're basically becoming a walking rescue squad. Izuku laughed. I wouldn't say that. Kyoka looked at him. You absolutely are. Even several students from Class 1B had come over. Kendo crossed her arms. Your rescue technique is impressive. Izuku bowed slightly. Thank you. Setsuna smiled. You've become pretty famous. I'd rather focus on training. Yui nodded. Predictable. Izuku laughed. That evening, Izuku stood alone on the roof of the dormitory. The city stretched beyond the school grounds. He looked at his hands. They were no longer the hands of the frightened child who had once been told that he could never become a hero. 10 years of training had changed him. Tsunade had taught him how to fight, how to heal, how to control his strength, and, most importantly, how to use that strength responsibly. Izuku touched the necklace around his neck. I finally understand. He smiled. You weren't training me to become the strongest. He looked toward the city. You were training me to protect people. A faint green chakra surrounded his hand, then disappeared. The next morning, Izuku received another message. This one came from you. A new provisional hero program was being organized. Students would soon begin preparing for the next stage of their careers. Izuku read the message, then closed his notebook. Another step. He stood. His hero costume was waiting. He put it on and tightened his gloves. The Byakugo mark remained faintly visible on his forehead. Izuku looked at himself in the mirror. I'm ready. He walked out of the room. Outside, his classmates were already gathering. Ochako waved. Midoriya. Izuku smiled. Coming. He joined them. The students walked toward the training grounds together. None of them knew exactly what the future would bring. But Izuku did know one thing. Whatever enemy appeared next, he would not rely solely on the power in his fists. He would fight. He would heal. He would rescue. And he would carry the lessons of the woman who had trained him for 10 years. The legacy of Tsunade Senju would continue through Izuku Midoriya. Not as a copy of her, but as her student, and as a hero who had finally found his own path. The years after the Kamino incident passed faster than Izuku expected. UA continued to train its students. Villain attacks still happened. Disasters still occurred. But Izuku had become one of the most reliable students in the school. His strength had grown. His medical ninjutsu had become more precise. And his control over chakra had reached a level that even professional heroes found difficult to understand. He could destroy a massive structure with a single punch. He could also remove a trapped civilian from that same structure without damaging a single nearby wall. That balance became his greatest advantage. By the time Izuku completed his studies, his reputation had spread throughout Japan. The media called him many things. The chakra hero, the medical hero, the green powerhouse. But Izuku preferred a simpler name. Hero. He had already received several offers from major agencies. Mirko had repeatedly asked him to join her agency. Yukio had offered him a position focused on rescue operations. Midnight had encouraged him to continue developing his medical techniques. And several other heroes wanted him as a combat specialist. Izuku eventually decided to create his own agency. Its purpose was simple: combat, rescue, medical support. All three would operate together. The agency opened several months later. The headquarters contained training rooms, medical facilities, rescue equipment, and classrooms for young sidekicks. Izuku stood in the main hall on the first morning. "This is bigger than I expected." Momo stood beside him. "You designed most of it." "I know. Then you shouldn't be surprised." Izuku smiled. Ochako entered carrying several boxes. "Where should these go?" "Second floor." Tsuyu followed her. "There are more outside." Izuku immediately went to help. "I'll carry them." Ochako shook her head. "You don't have to do everything." Izuku smiled. "I know." He picked up the boxes anyway. Mina entered behind them. "He's still the same." Kyoka nodded. "Unfortunately." Izuku looked back. "What?" "Nothing." Over the following months, the agency became increasingly busy. Izuku participated in rescue operations. He treated injured civilians. He fought villains. He trained young heroes. His medical chakra became especially valuable during large-scale incidents. One night, a train accident occurred outside the city. Several carriages had derailed. Heroes rushed to the scene. Izuku arrived shortly afterward. "How many injured?" A rescue worker answered. "At least 30. Where are they?" "Inside the second and third carriages." Izuku immediately moved. Black Whip extended from his arms. He carefully pulled open the damaged doors. "Everyone stay calm." A frightened passenger looked at him. "Can you get us out?" "Yes." Izuku began removing the injured one by one. He treated broken bones, closed wounds, stabilized internal injuries. Within minutes, the medical teams had enough time to transport everyone safely. One elderly man grabbed Izuku's hand. "Thank you." Izuku smiled. "You're safe now." The incident made national news the following morning. But Izuku didn't watch the report. He was too busy training. His Byakugo seal had become more refined. Instead of constantly storing enormous amounts of chakra, he could now regulate its release with incredible precision. Tsunade's techniques had become part of his own fighting style. He no longer tried to imitate her. He had developed his own variations. His signature attack was still Okusho. But he had created a weaker version for urban combat. A precise chakra strike that could disable a villain without destroying the surroundings. He called it Cherry Impact. It quickly became his preferred technique. One afternoon, Izuku received an unexpected visitor. A familiar blonde woman walked through the agency entrance. Izuku stopped. His eyes widened. "Tsunade Sensei." Tsunade smiled. "Long time no see, brat." Izuku froze. For several seconds, he couldn't say anything. Then he walked toward her. "You're really here?" "Of course I am." She looked around the agency. "So this is what you've been doing?" Izuku nodded. "I wanted to build something useful." Tsunade looked at the medical wing. Then the training area. Then the rescue center. Her expression softened. "You actually listened." Izuku smiled. "I tried." Tsunade crossed her arms. "How strong are you now?" Izuku hesitated. "Strong. That's not an answer." "Very strong." "Better." She grinned. "Show me." The two went to the training field. Several heroes gathered to watch. Mirko immediately appeared. "Oh, this should be fun." Yukio joined her. "I've heard about his teacher." Tsunade glanced at the heroes. "So these are the people you've been working with?" Izuku nodded. "Yes." Tsunade smiled. "Good." Then she pointed at Izuku. "Come on." Izuku lowered his stance. Green chakra surrounded his body. Tsunade smiled. That's my student. Whom? Izuku rushed forward. The training field shook. Boom. The exchange lasted only a few minutes. Neither used their full strength. But every movement was precise. Punch, block, kick, dodge. Chakra collided with chakra. Boom. Finally, they stopped. Izuku was breathing heavily. Tsunade was smiling. You've surpassed what I taught you. Izuku blinked. Really? Yes. She tapped his forehead. But don't get arrogant. Izuku laughed. I remember. Later that evening, Izuku sat with his friends. The agency had become a place where they could all work together. Ochako had become a rescue hero. Tsuyu specialized in aquatic rescue and reconnaissance. Momo worked with equipment development. Kyoka focused on communications and field support. Mina specialized in mobility and crowd control. Their paths had diverged in different directions, but they remained close. Izuku looked around the table. We've all come a long way. Ochako smiled. Yeah, Momo nodded. It doesn't feel that long ago that we were taking the entrance exam. Kyoka laughed. And Midoriya destroyed half the battlefield. Izuku looked embarrassed. I didn't destroy half of it. Mina grinned. Close enough. Everyone laughed. Over time, Izuku's relationships with the people around him became deeper. Ochako eventually confessed her feelings. Tsuyu admitted that she cared about him. Momo became increasingly comfortable expressing her affection. Mina was never shy about teasing him. Kyoka often stayed beside him during late-night planning sessions. Others who had met Izuku throughout his career also developed strong feelings for him. Nejire remained fascinated by his chakra. Kami enjoyed teasing him. Mei constantly wanted to study his medical techniques. Mirko continued challenging him to sparring matches. Yukio often worked alongside him during rescue operations. Even some former enemies eventually began seeing him differently. Toga's path was complicated, but Izuku continued believing that she could change. He never forgot that she had once been treated as nothing more than a monster. He wanted her to have a chance to live differently. Years passed. Izuku eventually became one of Japan's highest-ranked heroes. His agency expanded. The medical wing became famous. Heroes from other countries visited to learn about his emergency techniques. The chakra system that had once been known only to Tsunade and Izuku was now being carefully studied. However, Izuku refused to turn it into a weapon for governments. Chakra should be used to save people. That became the agency's policy. One evening, Izuku stood on the roof of the headquarters. The city stretched beneath him. The streets were peaceful. Lights filled the horizon. Tsunade stood beside him. You did well. Izuku smiled. I couldn't have done it without you. Tsunade shook her head. You would have found your own way eventually. Izuku looked at her. Maybe. Tsunade placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm proud of you. Izuku became quiet, then smiled. Thank you, sensei. The following morning, the agency held a celebration. Friends, heroes, former classmates, and several professional heroes gathered together. The building was filled with laughter. Izuku walked through the crowd. Ochako waved. There you are, coming. Tsuyu smiled. You're late, Ribbit. I was helping in the medical wing. Momo handed him a drink. You should relax. I will. Mina immediately grabbed his arm. No escaping. Izuku laughed. I wasn't planning to. Nearby, Nejire was already asking him another dozen questions about chakra. Mei was trying to convince him to let her build a new medical device. Mirko was challenging him to another sparring match. Yukio was speaking with several younger heroes. The atmosphere was chaotic, but peaceful. Izuku eventually stepped outside. He looked toward the sky. The necklace given to him by Tsunade rested against his chest. He touched it, then looked at his reflection in the glass doors. He remembered the boy he had once been. The boy who had been told he couldn't become a hero. The boy who had met a strange woman from another world. The boy who had trained for 10 years. He had learned chakra, taijutsu, medical ninjutsu, and the responsibility that came with overwhelming strength. Now he stood as a hero in his own right. Not because he had inherited someone else's dream, but because he had built his own. Izuku smiled. Let's keep going. Behind him, his friends called his name. Izuku. He turned. Coming. He walked back inside. The future was still waiting. And for Izuku Midoriya, the journey was nowhere near finished.